It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Jason Ward for MakingStarWars.net, and this is the other Jason. And today we are still tripping out on UFOs after all this time, all these weeks into UAP fever. That's what I call it. It's a bit.
I still call it UFO fever, Jason. I don't.
You know what?
Come on.
I was
not.
anti UAP until I started looking at the fact that it's been called that like forever. And then I was like, okay, so we've been calling it the wrong thing forever.
It has been a military acronym, and it was I was in the military up until like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was not a well-known military acronym, right? But it's something that I guess they started pushing within the talks of the subject. One, I'm sure to deviate people from looking into it and thinking UFO and associating all that lore and legend with it. But I digress. Let's talk about tonight.
Yeah, no. I think what you're saying, I mean, that was my assumption, was if you say UFO, people are like, they're talking about aliens. But if you write, if you say UAP or there's a document with that, your standard person is just going to simply overlook it.
Let me tell you, I think it's so funny that the dance of phrasing is always done with any of these, Lou Elizondo and stuff like that. He knows the language more than anyone, right?
Right.
Of being able to carefully phrase things to where he's not directly talking about aliens or anything like that. They'll phrase it differently. Like, we want to know who's piloting the craft. Who, like you're talking aliens, right? Like just say aliens. Like you want to know what kind of aliens they are, right, Lou? Like, but he's saying it in that way so that other people can definitely take notice of a serious subject without automatically shutting it down in their mind. Because we all carry those, I guess, innate prejudices on certain subjects, and we'll dismiss them really quickly. And I think that everyone's really careful when they want to be taken seriously talking about the subject, that they turn away from using phrases or terms that we commonly have talked about in ufology and aliens and the alien agenda and reptilians and all this stuff.
Yeah. So. Yeah. All of that, the Alex Jones stuff and everything like that, it does kind of, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it does serve to make it not be taken seriously, to get written off into the bizarre and unlikely. Like every single week or both of the last UFO shows that we did, our buddy Geek Furious, who I think usually watches them on a replay, he's always like, it doesn't mean it's aliens. Like he writes good comments, and I'm always like, yeah, you're right. But like my perspective on that, to an extent, is the UFO phenomenon has always been wrapped up with the alien phenomenon. And so with people saying that they were abducted and with cattle mutilations and all that kind of stuff like that. So you're not wrong. And it is like a scientific way of looking at it, but also kind of like Occam's razor here. Like when you have all of these sightings that happen with UAPs, and then you have all of these other things that come with it, and you have a lot of people over time who have said like, yeah, like I've been abducted and things like that. It becomes like, I get the perspective, and I think a part of me, like my logical mind, holds that same perspective. At the same time, I'm like, let's get real though. If these things aren't something that is being misunderstood by some wacky chance, which I don't believe is the case, but if it's something that's just being misunderstood, visual apparitions of some kind or something that we can't explain,
high altitude jellyfish that exist within our
right, Tic Tacs out of control. But no, like all of that, kind of stuff, it just like, well, yeah, it kind of points to it being something alive and controlling it. And it makes me think either like the, interdimensional stuff makes the most sense, or the straight up from some other planet. What do you all? What's the planet people are always like talking about? Like they're like Centauri Zeta 5 or some shit like that. And I'm always like, what?
Zeta Reticuli.
Zeta Reticuli. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you hear like that kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, you know.
And that stems from the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case, which is
Right.
the first very well-known, publicly talked about abduction case.
Yeah, I was looking into that lightly just for fun, not planning to talk about it on the show or anything. And a couple of things I was like kind of struck by was he died like pretty young, right?
He died pretty young. I know he had some health problems, but despite that, his family kind of does tie in the belief, from what I understand, hearing his niece talk on the many UFO forums and stuff she talks to, that she relates it to the heavy stress and PTSD that ensued from the abduction event itself.
Right. Yeah, I think I saw her on a video talking about how she's been abducted too.
Yeah, she recently came out and mentioned that herself, as well as some of her other family, were abducted at one point, and she didn't publicly acknowledge this or talk about this. And now she feels it is important to discuss and talk about. She seems pretty down to earth. She's a social worker in her private life,
Yeah.
and does books and investigates UFOs and UAPs. And stuff like that, and abduction cases, and in her private life as a hobby and side career. So, she seems pretty smart. She seems like, hey, I'm not saying people that aren't smart can't be, a little bit off their rocker.
Sure.
But, she seems pretty grounded to me. And I believe the Betty Barney Hill case. You want to know some startling facts that not many people know?
Yeah, of course. Drop it, man. If you got the knowledge,
right.
that's why I love talking to you, because I have a very superficial knowledge of this stuff, and you know a lot.
So a couple weird things happened during the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. First is that Barney, after the abduction happened, they didn't remember a lot besides seeing the UFO. Okay. But then later, he started dreaming about the event, and in his dreams, he was having them in the car being stopped by a bunch of men in like suits and ties.
Yeah.
And then later, during the hypnosis, it was revealed that those were not indeed what he was seeing. It was instead aliens, the Greys, which are commonly referred to. And that's what he was seeing throughout his, hypnosis sessions, and revealed to him through hypnosis.
Right.
Another thing is their car itself afterwards had these round circle swirls all around it on the outside of the vehicle. As well, you could put a compass up to the trunk area of the car. I know that's where it was done, from what I read, I believe.
Right.
And it would go crazy. Another thing is
it was magnetized, right? Like the bumper was magnetized or something weird like that, right?
Yeah, it was magnetized, and yeah, it was weird. Had those swirls in it, like crop circles. People talked about them looking like. They had their small dog that was with them, from what I read. Which I'm always like, well, what'd the dog do in this event? Like, did they recollect anything about the dog? I never hear anything mentioned about the dog's behavior, his receiving of information of anything wrong going on. I really would like to know a little bit more about that story. But excuse me, I'm going to be drinking throughout the episode tonight. I'll try not to be crunching on ice. But I did bring along, as promised, my Crystal Head Blue Agave vodka that I will be enjoying throughout the show.
Pretty fancy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think, I mentioned it on the last time we did the show together. I was like, there was this episode of Concrete, the podcast, and he has this guy on who's talking about like owls, how owls are always related to like UFO kind of stuff. And like the the cynic in me just goes, yeah, you're looking up and then you're at the owl and then the UFO catches your eye. Like that made complete sense to me. But one of the things that struck me about that was people would mention that they were driving, they would see a big owl, like as big as an owl can be, and they would pull over to look at it. And then that's when the encounter would happen. And there was almost the implication it was like what Barney went through, where he saw the men in
Right.
suits and it
Right.
wasn't actually men in suits. So it's kind of like the if you believe that any of it, it's like it could be that like the owl is like the red herring kind of that or whatever that gets you to pull over and look at it, and then then from there it moves on with whatever's
Well,
going to happen.
and from all the abduction cases we hear about, Jason, it's always them talking about how they never see their mouths move and obvious signs of telepathy, right?
Yeah.
So if they're able to have telepathy, they can also probably manipulate the mind and project images that are false images to either calm people down, allow them to believe something else occurred.
Yeah.
Kind of like a barrier or a defense that is put up in protecting the actual information. Like Buckshot said in chat, even if you could have a positive experience being abducted, right, with space aliens, think about how much it would mess your mind. It may be a super positive thing. However, your brain is taking in just a whole bunch of information that it never even considered as a possibility. It's a little bit overload if you think about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would be, I mean, it would be a pretty traumatic thing. I mean, that's the part of the Hill story that always stuck out to me, was that like he gets like an ulcer, I guess, is what I remember reading from freaking out about it and stuff like that. And for the record, like there's always been a part of me that like when I hear something like that, like I want to mock it. And then there's like this other part of me that wants to look at it, all of it anthropologically, in that it doesn't matter if it's true or not, if they believe it's true. Like if it's there, like that's kind of like how I approach this stuff. It's not necessarily that I believe it happened that way, but at the same time, I was way more cynical about alien abduction ideas and stuff like that until like we kind of pretty much got it confirmed that UFOs are a thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's where you start
Yeah.
to have to go like, okay, these now that that domino's fallen, you could start to take the other stuff a bit more seriously. Because if you ever even took it a little bit seriously, well, now you should take it more seriously, because now it's a hell of a lot more likely than it was when no one would admit that UFOs were real in any way.
And I'm in the very small minority of people who have had sightings.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I've had 3 sightings. I've had one when I was young in my 20s. Then I had one while I was on active duty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had one and deployed overseas, and one that was pretty recent as of last year that I reported to MUFON. None of them were extraordinary besides seeing a unidentified flying object that was doing some of the, the 5, that Lou talks about constantly.
Oh, the 5
right?
observables.
The 5 observables, right?
Yeah.
So I had, in a young age, always an obsession for the paranormal, ghosts, Bigfoot, aliens, anything I could get my hands on. Okay.
Yeah.
And you could say it set my mind into that perspective to look up more,
Mm-hmm.
and to maybe not just take things for face value, to think outside of the box. And you could say, oh, well, it could also push you to classifying stuff that was normal into abnormal. I actually disagree a little bit on that, because
Mm-hmm.
as a person who's been trained to observe aircraft in the military of all sorts, silhouetting and everything, if I'm thinking outside of the box and going, okay, I not only have to learn our crafts, I have to learn a foreign nation's crafts, right?
Yeah.
I can't just lump everything into being a Black Hawk if I see it over, on our shores.
Sir, I want to
think
report a bad guy. I don't know. It's just probably a bad guy.
Yeah, right.
You have to know
I'm
your
just
shit.
saying,
You have to
my
know
mind
what you're
doesn't
looking at.
immediately throw it into, everything's a Black Hawk, just because that's, probably the likely case. I have to think outside of the box and look for anything weird.
Right.
But
yeah, no. Does that ever piss you off? Like when you watch those, like your debunkers, like, and for the record, I think that there's a place for debunkers.
yes,
Somebody to challenge everyone instead of just going, there it is, everything's real. Like I'm not, but at the same time, like you see, like sometimes I'll like see like a debunker, and it'll be like somebody who went like home, like that one pilot who went was like at the Top Gun and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, he doesn't know what he's seeing, or she doesn't know what she's seeing, and it's like
kills me.
That's kind of that seems like kind of like you're calling a professional an idiot.
I would like to say, while I am a believer, I'm not an idiot, right? So I actually think skepticism is a huge part of my analyzing anything that I'm looking at. But I think in the field itself, all right, of UAPology, that I think that we need skeptics. Okay, now here's the difference between a skeptic that analyzes things with a logical take and a debunker. A debunker is just like our New Age people that kind of have that whole view that the aliens are good, they're going to heal the world, and there's not a bad soul out there. They've risen above to get to where they are, and they're all because they're all holier than thou. Okay,
right.
You have the New Age people that are going to say yes to everything.
Right.
Oh, a blue alien parrot guy talked to you? I believe you. Right. And then you have a debunker who's the opposite spectrum of this. This is someone who's going to always shoot down anything because they, like the New Age person, has already had their mindset.
Yeah.
They're now working the puzzle to find its way to that place, and nothing really is going to stop them. A skeptic is going to analyze the evidence, look at the data, look at the scientific, input coming in, and analyze it and read it and thoroughly vet it and check it with other sources, not just immediately shoot it down out of the sky, because, well, that's just silly.
Right. Yeah. A good academic goes and collects all the data and then comes up with the theory. And when you do it the other way, when you come up with your thesis first, and then you go find data to back up your thesis, that's bad scholarship. And the same thing applies in this instance, even if you're an amateur. You know what I mean? Even if you're just doing your best, trying to, figure out stuff from like that airplane. What was that air thing that came out this week? Like flight path recordings and stuff like that, or not recordings, but
the FAA,
the FAA like map with all of the it's just a drone, but every now and then it's like one of them that's like not, and it's like, what is that? That stuff, that amount of data being released to the public is awesome.
I showed my friend that site, right? And he grew up religious. So while he does believe, because he likes science as well, he, however, is very hesitant to accept anything into unless he really thoroughly analyzes it himself as an individual and accepts, a possibility. But he looked at the FAA. He's like, these are all drone sightings, because they're labeling them as drone sightings. And I had to explain to him that the FAA had no classification system for UAPs necessarily, so they had to label these as drone sightings. But what you're looking at is a drone that's at 25,000 foot in the air. That are we talking a drone? Yes. High grade military drone could be, but there's also some weird observables that have been mentioned, so we also need to look at that. So yeah. Buckshot says again, if the Navy can't tell the difference in a bird or aircraft, we're in bigger trouble.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I agree.
Exactly. And to have people like Mick West calling you out, West, for bad science, coming up and saying that these people who are highly trained, high credentials in the military, and academia, are not knowing what they're looking at, and it's really just a balloon or a bird, that's absurd to me. That's absurd to me. And I know it is to a lot of people, so I'm not going to dwell on it, okay? But I think that, good science considers all possibilities.
For sure. Yeah, I would think so. And like I haven't watched that much of Mick West stuff. I know he frustrates the hell out of people.
I blocked him. I don't need that negativity.
You're just like,
I don't need that negativity in my life. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think he is one of those people that are debunkers. And honestly, I am a big proponent of surround yourself with like energies and positive energies.
Mhm.
Like I have you on Twitter, right? Because I think we share similar energies and love certain things. Why have negativity in your life? Why have naysayers? Skepticism's good. Debunking's just as bad as believing everything out there.
Yeah, that's kind of like when Jeremy Corbell, released like videos that back each other up. Like I still find that to be one of the most fascinating things in everything that's gone on since I've been following it anyway. And you still see like on like Reddit and stuff like that, people just like trashing it and trashing like the video wasn't sensational enough. And like, we're kind of up against that.
Talk about. That's something to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing evidence from a military source with data to back that video up, with experts that have analyzed it and told us what we're looking at is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have a guy who made a skateboarding game debunking it. But whatever, okay. I'm saying that the footage, while looking rough, has a lot to go with it, okay? Our generation, however, is the generation that grew up watching Jaws, right?
Mm-hmm.
E.T., Jurassic Park, Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa!
Yeah.
They need bigger and better visual confirmation to allow their brain to wrap around the subject as a belief, because just like with the movies, they're not satisfied unless Sonic looks goddamn like what Sonic should look like in their head.
Hey, I want the Space Jam girl to be stacked, man. What is this?
Yeah,
those guys.
What?
But anyways, yeah, no.
I will say the bunny was confusing as a child. Okay.
It makes me think of Garth when he's like, "I liked it when Bugs Bunny would dress up like a girl." But no, I was trying. I talked about it a couple of days on the show. I tried to take a picture of the moon the other night, and tried to take a picture of the moon. I couldn't do it. It looked freaking crazy. Yeah,
it didn't come out at night.
Yeah,
when it's not good lighting, and go and try to take something, and folks. Yeah, we have high definition cameras. Here's the thing: the government knows everyone has a camera in their hand. Okay, while at nighttime it doesn't take the best pictures, there's only a matter of time between now and, like I mentioned last time, when something like the Ariel school phenomena occurs, and there's 64 kids or whatever it is taking pictures and sending them instantly to TikTok of stuff that can't be explained.
Right. Yeah. I want to see, I mean, and I'm not trying to dunk on Mick West because I don't know enough about him to do so, but I do want to see.
He seems like a nice guy. His agendas just are.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like when you think you already know the answer and you're just like, yeah, this is dumb. Of course this isn't real. I get where that comes from, I should say. I've probably been there, probably been like that before. That said, I want to see what happens. I want to see Mick West's day when the Zimbabwe incident happens again. When the Phoenix Lights happens again. And
it will. Yeah, and technology is only going to show more and more and more that now it's going to be everyone seeing it, because we are all always being looked at. And we are looking at everyone at all times. Police that come and stop our vehicles. We're filming, It's only a matter of time. Now, you could say, well, with the high technologies, they can just shut off phones. Like, That was my George Lucas. I don't know why I brought George in, but like I'm just saying you could say that, sure, but something's telling me that you'd be able to get some good information even from a distance.
So Brad says he thinks full disclosure will come soon. Do you think so?
So I think disclosure is happening as we speak. I think that they have looked at this for a long time, and I think they've been planning. I believe it started in the 80s, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it started with films like E.T.
Yeah.
I believe it started going down into getting us ready, right? Like visually acknowledging realistic images of an alien that we wouldn't think was something that, right? Like even back then, E.T. didn't look like a gray, which was known in the UFO circles.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird looking and it looked real, right? And he made it seem real. E.T. was real as far as I was concerned. Movie terrified me as a young child.
Same. I loved
until
him,
I watched
I
it
was
again and again and again and again.
Oh, good point.
And understood he was my friend, and I got used to it. Right. This is exactly what they've been doing, I think, for the last 30 years, is just getting us ready. 40 years now. Jeez, I'm old. And getting us ready for accepting more and more information. It's a slow drip. And I say it on Twitter all the time. I know you've seen me. It's a slow drip, drip by drip.
Yeah, because that's what I mean by most accounts, and there's so much fake stuff out there that it makes it hard to kind of suss out what's real, what's fake, what actually what you should be listening to and who you shouldn't. That becomes difficult. But one of the things that I seem to come across the most is it always sounds like there was like this 6-part plan, and you'll hear stuff like about these like far out scientists though, like I think his name is Kit Green, and and there's stuff leaked from him that leaked before people knew he was associated with some of the what's it called like telepathic readings and trying to like do sight viewings of Russian bases and stuff like that.
Right.
Like that guy's name.
Remote viewing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. I am not good with my recall today for some reason.
I'm here for you.
That's why I need you, bud. It takes 2 Jasons to make one of me. Anyways, so Kit Green, like his name was like around in these like certain documents before people knew that he was associated with the stuff of like officially, and then stuff like leaked out. And so you look back at that stuff and you're like, well, this could be rooted in truth, like this could be real. And there's all kinds, and that's what I've been kind of like wrestling with, is I have dated women, believe it or not. Women have dated me.
At one time, Jason. Come on,
listen. Recently, no, this is very recent. Actually, a lot of them recently. That I think about it, they always like they think that they have psychic powers. Like it's something about women I meet.
You said women, right?
Women who think that they have like that like this like intuition and
intuition. I think women do have it naturally more than men. Hey, ladies, I'm with you. I believe you, because I think genetically they are a more emotional being, and they're more, I think, emotionally developed as a species. A subspecies,
or it could be cultural too. It could be that, I mean, if it is real, our culture suppresses it. They're allowed to be in touch with their emotions, whereas men, not as much.
Absolutely.
But
man style beings.
Yeah. And I mean, it could go both ways. But what I will say is they have never impressed me. Like I've never like, it's always been like, oh, well, the one weird thing that did happen, now that I think about it, I was on September 11th, I was in bed with this girl, and we woke up and we're on the
You said
West Coast.
recent. You said recently, and
no,
now
no,
we're talking.
Now I'm going back. Now I'm going
Yeah.
back to September 11th, and we got up. We're getting ready, and she's like, "I had the worst nightmare." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Airplanes were crashing in our backyard, and it was just wild. Like everything was on
Wow.
fire." And I'm like, "So we get dressed. We don't turn on the TV or anything like that. We both worked at Mervin's. We drive to work, and everybody's just like freaked out, and we're like, oh shit." And then I'm like, "Well, that was creepy." But so there was that. That was the one thing where I was like, that kind of like lines up with it. But I always kind of like have the asshole-ish theory in my mind of everybody wants to think that they're special. And
That's true.
so and like so like whenever like you hear about like, oh, remote viewing and here's how you do it, you go, well, I could do it because I'm the main character in my narrative. So I'm the one who's going to have the power. Like I'm going to be the one. And then you think about it for a second. You're like, wait a minute. No, I'm just a person. And maybe, but probably not. You know what I mean? Like when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
And so like, and I always just kind of like, it's been on my mind because like, I don't really buy into it that much. And I know that there's so many frauds out there too. So you have frauds, and then you have people who want to be special and aren't, who are trying to say that they have this power. But then we keep having all this stuff with UFOs and people who say like they talk to me telepathically. And it's like, is that telepathy? Or is that a science that we don't understand? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you
like how
can. That's the
Facebook
thing.
could
We
put
can't
that little
measure
thing on
that.
your head. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't
Yeah.
measure that. We can't, we got to just honestly, here's the thing. In a court of law, I put this up on Twitter just not too recently, right? Like in a court of law, a person's testimony is sometimes the only thing a judge has
Yeah.
to then make a determination and sentence.
Right.
That's it. A person's word. Why are we so quick in this world to dismiss people's word? I don't get that. I've never got that, actually. I understand that the world is full of bullshitters, and people, like you said, do want to be the star of their own show. Me, thanks to the military, I have a very Fight Club mentality. We are all dirt, nothing. We're not a unique special flower.
No one's special.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No. Okay. And I think that there's beauty that comes with that. But I think we also need to listen to people more and trust more as a culture.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that when we have such evil, deception, lying, and dark side. Frankly, it's the dark side.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you know this about me. While I did grow up Catholic, I grew up, going to church, going to Catholic school. I now, as an adult, consider myself more of in line with kind of the Jedi and, Buddhist thinking, that Eastern style philosophy, right? I think that I also include all of them, merge them together, just like George did, and it makes more sense to me. So I go with that. And I think that, I don't know, it's a dark world at times and it's bright at times. And I think that we're starting to get a little bit brighter thanks to the last few months and last election.
Yeah. Well, what you were talking about with not believing people or everybody being considered a liar. I mean, this even goes to like the Me Too stuff to an extent. Like when you get down to it, like even people who were assaulted and it happened, they were like they were treated as liars to an extent. And so you have all of these different kinds of ways where we as a culture like to minimize people, and we like to shut down anything that has to do with that we don't like to hear, anything that we don't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear bad news or something that's scary or that they don't understand. Like somebody in the chat just said, it's scary. And it's like, it can be. It's like,
it can be.
It definitely can be. But where I'm going with this is you have to like hear somebody out and then decide after that. Like, let the evidence come in, and then
That's just good
call them,
investigation work.
yeah,
That's
call
just,
them a liar if they are, if
yeah.
they're a liar, like, you know what I mean? And if somebody's like straight up lying about like a UFO stuff, for instance, then next time they come out with a video, don't go, oh, this one's going to be real though. And it never works that way. I could just tell you that from stupid Star Wars stuff. If people
Yeah.
fake their news one time, it's always going to probably be fake. It's just kind of how it goes.
It's going to be fake. 0 out of 0.
So what do you,
With an
what do
H.
you, yeah, right. What do you think about, like the meditative practices to,
So I'm
yeah,
telling you, you say I'm just a normal person. I
Mhm.
can't do out of body experiences. I can't do remote viewing. All right. These are techniques. These are learned techniques that are practiced. Okay.
Mhm.
So years ago, as every, I think, mid 20-year-old does, they start delving into, philosophy and spirituality, and really they're kind of finding their center core of belief.
Mhm.
I started doing meditation, and probably as a daily routine, I'd do it in the morning, do it at night. And I followed this regimen that I
Mhm.
was told, hey, take a shower or a bath, make sure you're clean, do the meditation after, do this and this, do this breathing technique, picture this. Now,
Yeah.
here's where I stopped for a while.
Mhm.
This is no lie. And
Mhm.
this is 100% Jason being real.
Okay.
I was sitting in my apartment meditating, and I was kind of just being there. Okay.
Mhm.
It's not like you're asleep. You're not oblivious. You're just being there. All of a sudden, I saw what looked like stars going into hyperdrive. Okay.
Mhm.
Going by my face. It was so powerful that I kind of broke out of the meditation because I was like, whoa, like that was weird, right? Like
Yeah.
I got up and I was like, whoa. I'm like, okay. And I opened up my blinds that were right in front of me as I was meditating. I opened up the blinds. It's first snowfall of the year in upstate New York, coming
Yeah.
down like crazy. And the snow was hitting my window like hyperspace.
Yeah.
Now, I'm telling you, I felt like I projected myself forward just a little bit to experience and feel that. And that was a very enlightening moment for myself personally, because
Right.
it confirmed what I was reading had some merit to it. It had some truth. It
Yeah.
wasn't just talking about the talk. It walked the walk when it was time to do it.
Right.
And I followed it, and I didn't have any doubt that if I followed this, it would work. So I think it worked.
Yeah.
Out of body experiences or remote viewing, these things, I believe, are real.
Yeah.
I mean, so did the CIA, right?
Right.
Like they funded them, they used them, they did
Yeah.
get results back. Were they good enough results to keep them? I mean, no,
Yes.
probably
Yeah.
not, right?
We don't know, right?
Don't know.
We don't
They
know if
say
it's
that
going on.
they
I've
got like 70% accuracy or something like that. I forget, but
Yeah.
they're not employed by the government now,
Right.
or are they?
Yeah. There's like, once again, it's hard to say what's real, so I'm not like really gonna like believe it's I'm gonna go with it being fake, but there's like interesting documents and stuff with like Kit Green and remote viewing and them claiming that it like they have what I found interesting about it was that they have a woman in one of the documents, and I saw this on UFO Joe's website,
I
and
have to go to that one. You always mention
yeah,
UFO Joe
I
to
like
me.
it.
I don't.
It's
I haven't
fun.
really looked at it, so I know that I
Yeah.
need to go on there and check it
Yeah,
out. You always talk
I
about it.
yeah, I saw him on a podcast with Corbell and Elizondo one time, and I was like, okay, I'll look at this guy's site, and it has good stuff on it. And he has like this document that was leaked. It was an audio file that was leaked to him, and it was this like transcript, and he made it into a transcript. And it was the audio file was him doing a remote, Kit Green doing a remote viewing session with a woman, and and he just calls her like experiencer or something like that. He doesn't like use her name. And in it, Kit Green supposedly gives her just a location, and like that's it. It was like there was no details. There was nothing to build anything around. And she ends up like going and finding this like place off of Catalina Island, and starts to like talk about these places where you always see UFOs and stuff, which I thought was fascinating.
Catalina wine mixer.
Catalina wine mixer. Yeah, it's where it happens, man. But she says basically like, and it's wild stuff, but it's a rabbit hole I went down. And she's like saying that there's aliens, there's a UFO there, aliens, and they're picking someone to deliver messages to the mainstream. And she's like, I think he's like a movie producer or something. And she like talks about like all of these very specific parts of his body, like anatomically, that are like feeling stress. It was pretty trippy. If it was like, even if it's fake, it's so creative. It was like, whoa.
But the thing is, it's not fake to them, even if that's something we can't measure.
Yeah.
To these people, that they're believing it.
Yeah, and I was talking about the document itself. It was the whole thing fake. The whole scenario, a piece of fan fiction written by somebody from Reddit or something. But this audio that was linked to him, I believe, like named Kit Green and stuff like that. And then later on, it comes out that Kit Green is doing this stuff, and it was like, oh, okay, so this audio file probably has some legitimacy to it, and but yeah, it's basically like talks about how like the UFO, the aliens and hybrids are all worried about what oil companies are doing to the plates and drilling into the ocean, and and they're afraid of some like catastrophe happening if they continue to do it. Like that was kind of where it ended up going. But I was like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, like what are these guys doing? Because like the video I'm going to show in a little while, it's like in Connecticut. I'm like, what are you doing in Connecticut, UAP? Like, dude, there's so many cool places to go. No,
it's true, because where they're being seen, a lot of them are over water, but a lot of them are in odd places all over the country.
Right.
You know?
And that's like what the UAP report pretty much said is, do we have a collection bias here, because they seem to be around nuclear facilities, but we're kind of only filming nuclear facilities and army bases and having surveillance at those places. So
I love how they only included information that was military and collected from 2004 and up. It's like, wow, way to cover your tracks of all the shady shit you did in the past, right? Mm-hmm. I see what you did. I see what you did, government.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I was, just playing devil's advocate, not to be a company man or something like that. But what if all the shady shit, like, what if a lot of that has been destroyed? What if they can't even like, for instance, they claim they like deleted Elizondo's emails and they're just gone now. Oops, we don't know what happened to them. But what if that's true for most people in the government who used to have access to it? It's like that goes down a conspiratorial rabbit hole, but you're like, but with how many like things that we've seen actually go on, like they can't be trusted. They lie constantly. They change the story constantly. Like when it comes to this stuff, it's maybe now we're in a better place. I'm hoping that we are.
They're going to have to answer for the sins of their past.
Yeah.
One way or another. If disclosure finalizes, comes to a conclusion that something is there and this is it, without a doubt, they're going to have to answer for some of the things in the past. Now, what I think they're waiting for is a lot of those witnesses and people, like I said last show, a lot of them to drop off. I think they're waiting for that generation to get older and older and okay, all right. We had, I forget the name of the two women and the child that, suffered radiation sickness, right? Like, you had them having a lawsuit with the military at the time, and we have a lot of things in the past that were covered up, and they'd have to answer for that. Well, if they start their investigation publicly, and everyone knows they started their investigation 2004 and up, then we don't have to answer.
Yeah,
anything.
and does that just mean that, like, did they stop doing the shady shit by 2004?
I think they did stop the stuff they were doing.
Yeah.
And just change the ways they were doing it.
Right.
Right? Like, you don't need Men in Black knocking on someone's door anymore.
Yeah.
To scare them, to threaten them. All you need is their computer.
Yeah. Well, and you also, I mean, you also like have like people, even though recently, who've had like their careers ruined from trying to talk about it, and people who could come out and say, like, I didn't get better rank because I reported this. And you know what I mean? Like, you do hear stories like where people get in trouble for things. I don't have any of those citations up right now.
No,
so
yeah, and
I'm speaking generally, but
I've heard of things like that.
Yeah.
Like the radar, I want to say it was the radar technician on the Nimitz, got a lot of flack for it and stuff. By the way, side note, J.J. Abrams UFO show that's coming out on Showtime.
It's in August, like August 8th or something, I think.
August, it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks, again, remember what I said, that drip. These are things that are settling into everyone, the mainstream's mind. Now, if we're individuals and we're curious about the subject, then we're going to want to dig deep and learn a lot about it. But think of the people. Think of the people that don't do that ever. That's the least of the things on their mind. They're thinking of Fast and the Furious 9 or whatever, right? Like, those are the people that are going to come across these things eventually and start getting used to the idea. Oh yeah, I heard about the pen. Yeah, that thing the pilot saw. Yeah. I heard about this. All right.
Cool. Yeah, I already know it.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that I'm not disagreeing with that's kind of a plan. And you do hear all the time of like, I was picked to help the government, like Tom DeLonge. I was picked to help communicate what they want to say. And
I actually started listening to his audiobook, Secret Machines with a K.
Oh yeah, how is that?
So far so good, actually. I mean, he's not writing it; he's got someone writing it with him, right? But it's pretty much unofficially the official story of him and how he got into the subject in the beginning of the book, at least, and then it delves into the story parts, right? They're like making a story out of this to make sense of it. Yeah. And I think that was the big thing when he talked to people that were in the know. I think he was like, hey, listen, you guys, people absorb stuff in movies. They absorb stuff in pop culture. They're not absorbing anything that you're telling them on CNN. We laugh at that crap.
Right.
And he's true to an extent, right? Like, he's like, let me work with you to try to get this message out to a younger group, like what you want to really let them know about, because I know about it and I know you know about it. So let's work together, essentially. Right. Like, I'm summarizing this heavily, but I think it worked. And I think Tom DeLonge has done a lot for our community in ufology that people really don't give him credit for. And, you have I say community. It's really like warring factions, right?
Sure. I mean, when you get down to it, like when you have anything with a bunch of nerds in it, there's always the nerd elite. There's always the one who wants to be the dungeon master, and he's a dick every time. No.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm the dungeon master. You're right, though. And I hated those nerds growing up. Yeah. I wanted to learn D&D, right? Or be, hey, guys, you're a little bit older than me. You know D&D. Like, what is this, right? And I was given the cold shoulder, like, you're too young or whatever. Elitists, or I know every rule in the book, and you need to know this. No, what? you know, as a dungeon master now, let me tell you, I could out DM them any day. That's being cocky, but I didn't like their mentality of being gatekeepers. There's gatekeepers to Star Wars. There's gatekeepers to Indiana Jones fandom. I just learned recently. What the F?
Right.
Like, indie? Come on. You can't just be an indie fan. You know, like, oh, you didn't watch all of the Indiana Jones, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles? Wait, and you're a fan? Oh, okay, dude. Like, really, dude? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always tell people I love that one. I love that show, but you have to really work.
You have to really love Indiana Jones.
You have to work for it. I love it. I do love that series, but you have to like sit through some hard shit to make it work.
I read the novels growing up, like the Indiana Jones novels, right? I love those. I love those are good stuff.
No, it is funny because it's like when you get down to it, Indiana Jones is kind of like a gateway towards anthropology and academics and the occult at the same time,
but not real anthropology.
Well, I mean, no, but
yes,
like
it is.
No, his show, like the young, I went into anthropology and not archaeology. I liked anthropology better, but I did it probably because of George Lucas and probably because of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and that opening got me in being interested in history, and then kind of wanting to, like, I was always interested in that side of things, like where you look at a culture on its own terms, and like Indy does that. Like he leads by that example like several times in the movies, and I kind of like came to this conclusion later on. I'm like, honestly, I'm a city guy. I'm never going to some other country where it's hard. I'm just not going to do it. I just know I'm not. I'm going to stay inside on the internet. So that's why I ended up going to American Studies, because I was like, oh, there I could do anthropology of America. Okay, I'll do that. But
I'll take a tour of the White House. Whatever.
Yeah, but it's a weird fandom in that way though, because you do kind of have both of those kinds of people in it. Like, you know what I mean? You have like the academic, I'm a history teacher.
All nerd culture has really smart people in it. The thing is, those smart people grew up not being in big groups, and they start creating groups within their nerd culture. It always bugged me.
It's like, true, dude. It's totally true. Yeah.
You become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Like, I really like when I need a break from all the Lucasfilms stuff. And that I like going on to Reddit's Are UFOs. That's like my home away from home for fandom stuff. And so I go over there and I like read it, but like you'll also like see, like, I feel like the same 20 people. It's a bird.
Oh,
it's a bird every time, or it's a Chinese lantern.
I called out. Did you see my post calling out all these recent tweets and accounts that are swarming UFO Twitter, like as of late? To me, it looks very obvious, especially someone who kind of knows what we're capable of as a nation, and or as a private even industry, as far as destroying credibility or swaying arguments or taking a nation and making them do what you want them to do. PsyOps is a real thing. And I called out, all these new accounts that have 2 followers. And, I think a lot of people did notice it and said, oh, yeah. And like that, Jason, all of a sudden, I saw less of them. It's so weird.
No, I was seeing, like I was telling you one time, like around The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson mentions it in the documentary, but there was just this time when you would just get swarmed with bots, probably Russian bots. And
he mentions Russian bots. Right?
And they would just like, you could tell because they would start talking gibberish at times, but there'd be like all these like buzzwords. And I have a friend who has a podcast about something political, and she rapidly went from like, hey, how do I do this in podcasting, to like, whoa, blew up big. And then the Russian bot thing was very huge there. And it's made me wonder if some of that to an extent is happening because when the government says, hey guys, like, we're trying to be real with you, here's what it is, we don't know what it is, blah 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 blah, and then you have all that kind of stuff, like, do you then like have that same kind of project go forward to discredit everything about it and then make us believe, no, it's not really that, it's the government's making spaceships and not telling us, don't trust them? Like, is it, I could see it working both ways.
I've seen bot accounts, if you
Yeah.
will, or fake accounts. I'm not sure which ones they are. Troll farm accounts, if you will.
Yeah.
I've seen them on both sides of this UFO topic. I've seen these true believer accounts that are just interjecting themselves like, why can't you believe that spirituality is tied to aliens and blah, 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 blah. And then you see these debunker types going in just in people's random posts. Like, you know, it's obviously a balloon. You must be dumb. LOL. Like, really? Like, no one else sees this? I'm thinking to myself, I'm crazy. Like, no one else is noticing that these accounts are made in July 2021.
Right.
Anyone going to call this out? So I put it up there. And yeah, apparently people have noticed, you know. Wenger, my friend on UFO Twitter, he's definitely noticed that and seen. But they're also harassing. I don't know if you knew this. They're harassing some of the people that are putting up videos, you know. And some of the videos I don't think are even good. Some of them look like they could be anything in the sky, right? But they're getting on their PMs, calling them liars and trash and all sorts of things. It is, I think, a way to kind of keep the momentum to where it needs to be. The momentum, when it needs to go up, they'll let you know, essentially, right? Like they'll open up the gates and let everything through. What's Buckshot say here about Tesla and SpaceX? Yeah, I heard some billionaires went to space. Big freaking deal, right?
Yeah. He also says, I never gave Russian bots any of my time to research them. What is the purpose of Russian bots to ruin something like a film? What's the point of to have them hate on The Last Jedi or et cetera? Well, what it is that it the movie has a political message in it. So if there's any political subtext, then what you want is you want to use a pop culture event to make Americans fight about that political issue or whatever that hotbed item is or whatever. It's just part of a general kind of let's sow discontent. And
nailed it, Jason. Nailed it.
Yeah, that's just like the gist of it. And then you start to see like people divided politically, and it worked. It worked really, really well, I think.
When you want to take a nation and you want to start causing disruption on every level, you don't just attack one particular level. You don't just attack politics. You don't just attack religious. You attack every part of it. Yeah. And believe it or not, pop culture and movies are such a big part of who we are as a nation, frankly, and a world at this time, that sowing discontent in there, right? Yeah, is definitely part of the program to just cause that. I call it the stirring the shit method, right? You go in there and stir the shit and then walk away from it for a while. And then you let basically the populace, the easy to sway populace agree with you and go, yeah, hey, because people in the end are going to argue. You know, we're a very argumentative, very click-oriented group.
And you end up kind of getting into, you could use that kind of stuff to make people, like I said, just not trust each other, not trust the government. You could see a lot of that during the last year that we've had, where things like that have played out. I have a video I'm going to attempt to play, and I was going to play the original video too, but the original video I feel like isn't going to show up on the stream. So I'm going to give a shout out to where it's at and the person who has it, has these videos right here, so you could see who they are. The video though comes from Reddit originally, Connecticut, I think April 5th. And this guy is I think he's like some kind of like realtor, and he's using his drone to like film a house.
Absolutely a realtor video. I do that, by the way. My girlfriend is a real estate agent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I do the drone.
Yeah, I had another friend who did those things too. I wonder if he ever got anything. But so he's doing it, and he gets back home, looks at the footage, and then he's like, "What is this?" And for the skeptics, I'll just like say the skeptics say it's ice falling from a plane. Like once again, Occam's razor, I don't feel like they're playing within it. And then, but you end up seeing what appears to either be a translucent, like triangle, three-dimensional pyramid, or you're seeing several things flying together in a.
Don't sway them, Jason.
Okay.
Let's have it.
No,
Let's have the video play.
Yeah.
Let them see it, and then we'll talk more about it. We'll play it again if we get it to work.
So yeah, so right here, this guy, Think Tank, at 528 Vibes. This guy posts all the UFO videos, so I like his Twitter a lot.
I do too.
And this right here, this first one up top that I'm not going to play is the original video. And for the record, the poster posted up the original on compressed video as well, and uploaded that with everything that he could to be like, hey, I'm not lying. Like this isn't
a 4K
effect.
video. It's a 4K video of the drone starting in front of a house, rising up, right? And then it's meant to capture the whole property. And then you see some strange things. So they did this effect to basically edge detect, right?
Yeah, this user Atlantean Pearl says here, I added edge detect so it's easier to see the object. So I'm going to see if I can make this full screen, and then you're going to see something fly by, and then you're going to see some other shapes. So this is like really slow right now, but when you look up above those trees, like dead center of the frame, it's like, to me, it looks like object. And then you look at that fly by. It's like, what is that? And then slower 20 times zoom. And you just see that go by. Like, it looks like one of those cigar kind of deals, Tic Tac maybe. And then look at this part.
Blur.
This right here is what I love right here. Is look at this thing. Look at it. Look at it moving. Look at the geometric shape moving. That's what tripped me out. Is you could just like, is the geometric shape that is sort of like going around. But yeah, I thought the video was super fascinating.
So you ready for my take on it?
Yeah. Give it to me.
I think it's birds.
You do think it's birds?
I do think it's birds from a distance. The object that hits me as something to look into further is the fast moving object.
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot more fast moving UFOs, UAPs,
right,
that are above us that we don't even probably spot. I think we're seeing more and more of them as people are starting to look into the subject.
Yeah.
So
David says jackpot, which makes me think of Luke Skywalker back when Rey became his apprentice.
Jackpot because it was bird.
No, it's porgs. No, yeah, I'm kind of like I was saying, like I like look at all this stuff and I'm like, this could just be actually a fake video. It could all be nonsense.
I don't think it was fake. I think it's
misidentified. I don't think so either.
But that fast moving object, could very well be, I hate to say it, another bird with the type of frame rate. You know, I'm not a camera guy, or a bug, but I think that's a little large to be considered a bug.
Yeah.
But I've been wrong before. It could be a dragonfly that's very large. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what actually was interesting to me. The things off in the distance did seem very much like birds, possibly seagulls. I could be wrong on that too.
Yeah.
Again, the more evidence that we see and analyze and break down, we can try to determine the best answer for it. But guess what? Unless people are like, oh, no, I have another camera angle. I was right there too. And I got this angle. And look, you can clearly see it was birds. It's left to our imagination.
Right.
So
yeah, I dig though. I don't know. I dig that video. Something about it that
cool.
I'm like that I find it fascinating. And even if it's nothing, it's fascinating what the human mind will come up with if it's looking for it. you know,
Yeah.
and like it's kind of funny. It makes me think of, oh, I can't remember what that game. Oh, Valheim. There's this Viking game that came out, and I was playing it with my kids. Right, it's kind of like you could build stuff, and like giants come at you and stuff,
Mhm.
and
I play that.
your base gets attacked every some X amount of days. Like giants will come or skeletons will show up and start trying to mess stuff up. And we were doing something really difficult in the game. We were trying to move like silver on a boat. And I started seeing stuff out there in the ocean of a video game that wasn't there. Cause I
I
was
do
like,
that with Rust.
where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? And it's the sea monster. And I'm like, there was no sea monster. But I was like, wow, I'm like, I could kind of see how people go out there and see Nessie now when it's not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and then there's evidence that is very convincing that something's there. It's so weird. And that's why, if you read a book by John Keel, Haunted Planet, there's a lot of them. He has, like I said before, this theory that, all these paranormal things that we're seeing at times, the really, truly unexplainable things that people are honestly witnessing, if we're to believe them, right?
Right.
They're all connected, and it's dimensional, and it's us not being able to see these different spectrums that exist and coexist around us. And Lou Elizondo has actually talked about this a lot. Whenever people are like, "What is it, Lou? Tell us the secret. What is it?" And he's like, "Well, and he dances the dance around the subject, and he starts talking like, hey, what if there are things that we can't perceive? What if there's spectrums of light we can observe? And what if they're what if there's something coexisting at the same time?" Right? So I believe in that theory.
Yeah.
Why do you think people see Bigfoot and then see his tracks and they all of a sudden come to a stop and there's nothing there?
Yeah.
And they just saw the thing and yet he just disappeared. It could be all tied together.
Yeah.
My daughter is in the chat.
Oh,
I see. Yes. I do believe that's her. I hope that's my daughter. If
not, somebody's calling one of us daddy right now. But
could be my girlfriend. I don't know.
She says,
I
I love you, Dada.
Love you too, honey. All right.
Yeah, me and my daughter, like I said, we were in the pool and we were playing Let's Look for UFOs. We were like floating on the raft. We're like, do we see any? But we did eventually, and I don't believe it was a UFO for the record, but we did see something up so high. It was unbelievable. Like it was the highest thing I probably have ever seen flying above my pool. And when we were, since we've been in it, we've looked up on clearer days. We never see anything that high as that day. But my son couldn't see it. I don't know if he needs to get his eyes checked and his eyes are worse, or if he just wasn't finding it in the game of Where's Waldo. But what I find interesting is that you will hear stories where like 15 people are seeing a UFO and there's like 5 people who are like, I don't see what you're seeing. And like I always find that aspect fascinating. Is that just a human error, or is it bad eyesight? Or
that's actually a fascinating subject. Like, are we all of a sudden granted the ability to see them?
Yeah, and you see like I believe these videos are complete bullshit. For the record, one of the videos I hate is there's this guy. He's like a TikTok guy in Russia. Sorry, Russia, I love you. I'm not trying to pick on you.
Are you talking the
glass
it's
guy?
Bullshit. It's bullshit.
No, it's total bullshit, because if you just think about it for a moment, you would see UFOs from your car if a piece of glass.
Well, he said you heard the story of this, right? I dug into that case.
Is there more to it? Yeah, if there's more to it, let me know what you know.
Okay, so here's that case in a nutshell. Yes, TikTok video came out showing a Russian, with a piece of glass, and looks like ordinary glass, right? And then he's like, oh, but look. And he looks the camera through the glass, and through the glass, you can see a UFO that's just there out in the middle, and everyone, and no one sees it.
It's like they live.
It's exactly like
the sunglasses to they live. Yeah.
So his story was supposedly, here's where I don't believe him. 1, it's Russian. 2, he says that he was fishing and there was a crash near him, and basically the government came in and cleaned up stuff. And then he went back the next day and found that piece of glass, and it's got these properties of magic to it, right? Technology.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Russian. It's Russian. I hate to
Yeah.
say.
Well, I'm even gonna
Anything coming from that is like questionable, right? Like,
I'm gonna let the Russians off the hook, and I'm gonna say it's TikTok.
Oh,
Like,
that too. That too. It's TikTok.
It's TikTok bullshit. I mean,
it's a really good effect, though.
Yeah,
a really good effect.
No, he did. I think probably whatever After Effects or whatever he used to like do it did a good job. I'm not knocking the visual effects work at all.
No. Really good visual effects.
Yeah.
I will say this: I've been looking into nanocrystals.
Mm-hmm. What are nanocrystals?
So nanocrystals are the ability to basically lay a layer onto a lens that these nanocrystals react to different things, such as light.
Okay.
So we use, night vision for soldiers, right? Which uses the infrared. And these nanocrystals supposedly are able to be on sunglasses. So they're sunglasses until you basically subject them to maybe some kind of, I don't know what kind of electrical, charge or something. And then all of a sudden, those sunglasses become night vision. Pretty cool, right? Like,
yeah. So they actually work as they just work as night vision.
I don't know. I haven't seen the dang things, right?
Okay.
I've been reading up on it. It's something that I know that they're working on. I know that I've read a couple papers on it, and it's pretty cool stuff. If anyone's going to be knowing about this, it's probably DARPA and military contracts and all of that sort of stuff. It's something that I'm sure that the military, if this is something that's true, which it is, this is coming from reliable, by the way, reports.
So what you're telling me is the Marines are about to get some badass Ray-Bans. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
If that all pans out. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
By the way, do you know why we don't have helmets with like data displays that really could help out a lot of different stuff? And hey, you have a gas mask already built into it and everything. The big reason is we want to show our face as a army, as a nation, as a military. We want to, because it personalizes the individual. And if we mask them, it seems very oppressive and negative.
Yeah.
Even though there'd be a lot of potential things we could do with an Iron Man style mask. I mean, let's face it, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I could see I could see how that would be appropriate for certain, I don't know what you would call it, like certain operations or something. You know what I mean? Or certain moments, like if you are an occupying force and you do it, you're basically becoming if you are masked up and in suits, you're basically becoming stormtroopers, and you're gonna look like monster robot people.
Even to your own people, So I agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
Even though it'd be really cool to have soldiers looking like, whatever. But, I was just about to talk about this. So if someone's going to take time to watch skies, what are the signs you've spotted of potential UAP, and not just a satellite? So differentiating between the two. So there are some really good apps that you can find on your iPhone and or I guess Android device if you're, inclined to buy Android stuff. See, I told you I was loyal to iPhone. But you can find apps that actually will track satellites, active sky watchers, and you can verify if that is indeed something odd, because there are low-lying satellites that are currently out, especially Tesla releasing them, right? So they look very suspicious, by the way. I will say, watching for UFOs and seeing those satellites, I mean, they're very close together at times. They're moving rapidly, low to the ground, really weird looking. But guess what? I pull out my phone, open up the app, put it to the sky, and I can verify. Oh no, that's a Tesla satellite. Yeah, okay.
Can you look back and like let's just pretend I don't know the date that me and my daughter saw what we saw, but could I go back and go like, was there one like in this area?
Not on my apps that I know of. I can do that, but I'm sure on some websites There is
Mhm.
satellite tracker, websites that I know you can put in date time where the satellite was
Okay.
at this time. Yeah, there is those.
I also think like, and I don't know much about this stuff, but one thing I do know is I learned this as a kid looking for UFOs, is that you could tell like when something has like a tail light. Like you could tell like it's a pattern, kind of like when there's like a flashing pattern like that. It's probably like not like it's like
Well,
a helicopter or an airplane usually. I mean, you could usually you can tell, I feel like. You would know better than I, but that's always so. Maybe I've been seeing UFOs this whole time, and I'm just like, nope. I see that flashing. It's
oh, that's the thing. Again, your mind went to what immediately? Like, oh, it's something I'm going to put that into the normal Occam's razor,
right.
basket, and that's a good way of thinking because probably it isn't a UFO, at all. But with training and stuff, yeah, you can determine. Like, I know people that look into the sky and they're like, oh yeah, no, there's a red light on either side of the craft. It's blinking at intermittent values of blah blah blah. They can determine, no, okay, so those lights are pretty far out. That craft's about probably, I don't know, 12,000 feet in the air. They can determine what kind of craft it is. I don't do that, right? I can tell
Yeah.
silhouetting and stuff the military's taught me. But they're definitely, it's people just observing. I always have said in life, more people would see UFOs if they just bothered to look up.
Sure.
You know,
And yeah, and like I said last time, we're looking more down at our phones and our feet while we're doing stuff than ever before, which makes it a lot easier to
and
not
it's
see that
getting
stuff.
hotter
But
and hotter out, and brighter.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I was thinking about what what Rick Jones just said a couple days ago. He saw, "Where's my civilian jetpack? It's 2021, people."
yep.
My son goes, "If they're aliens," he's all, "I wonder if they're going to have Mandalorian jetpacks." And I'm like, unfortunately, if what Bob Lazar says is true, sounds like they're about making artificial gravity and stuff like that, as opposed to
I
having. I
know,
mean,
right?
yeah, like I don't think the jetpack even necessarily, unfortunately, lines up with what we know about the UAP phenomenon at this point.
But isn't that funny that Star Wars and the tech behind Star Wars
Hmm.
would still be science fiction fantasy in a reality where that stuff could be head to head?
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't that crazy?
it's almost like, in a weird way, Star Wars is almost becoming steampunk. Like,
Yeah.
when you get down to it, because it's like using rockets to propel yourself. To me, like right now, if I was to sit down and write, if I was, George Lucas today, and I sat down to write, I'd be like, oh no, rocket boosters, that sounds ridiculous. Like compared to like what we're hearing every day about
Yeah.
how these things are supposed to work.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I find like the technology of it, all of that stuff, and the proposed science to be like fascinating. And it's like, I want to know, one of the things I wish that the government would come out and talk about, which they probably won't because they want to crack it, I'm sure, but is like, how do they think this stuff works? Like when you hear Elizondo talking about how he believes these things working, like what the dominant theories are, like why the triangle is like, the single craft has one booster, one thing, and then the triangle is like
Yeah.
three, and it's bigger, it's like a carrier. And so like you hear that stuff, it's fascinating, but like I would like to know what are their top five if they don't know. And that's my next question for you is, they're acting like they don't know what this stuff is. Do you think they know? Like, is the lie continuing if that's the case? Because they're acting like they have no idea what it can be.
I think that they have very good assumptions at what it could be, but assumptions only get you so far, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing definitely like larger craft having smaller craft go off of them, scouting, right? You
Mm-hmm.
had David Fravor, his craft came upon something big bubbling under the water, and then that Tic Tac was over it like a scout, right? And then Tic
Yeah.
Tac rose up, and that thing was gone. There's definitely something going on with like a mothership, and then the scouts, and then you have the orbs right? And then so
Mhm.
it's like, how far do these things go into their ability to just zoom around us and observe
Yeah, and
unnoticed?
there's been like wild stories that I believe Elizondo has even commented on with things like some of the stuff you like some of the videos that he's seen. You have no idea what you're even looking at as you're and they're good videos supposedly, but like it's like things morph into each other and stuff, and it's just like it's almost
It's really
psychedelic
weird.
sounding. And that's what makes me start to think like, yeah, maybe you can't see these things. Maybe like you're seeing light refracted. And I always think about that Tom DeLonge thing where he says that he heard from a scientist who probably works for him that time slows down for them inside because time is
I believe that.
relative.
I
And
believe
like,
that would be the case, actually.
yeah, it does seem to make sense with what we know of physics even.
Yeah.
And so like with that kind of stuff in mind, like what you're seeing is something that's might be moving or staying still for a very long time. And it makes me, when you see it zip away, it's like they're experiencing time completely different than us. And like that's how like was it the TikTok video that we got recently that was real, where it went to each location the pilot was going to be before he got
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's
the
like,
Tic Tac. The
it's like
Nimitz encounter.
yeah, so it's like that you either read that as, yeah, they are experiencing time differently, or they're really good hackers, in a weird way, which wouldn't be surprising at the same time.
So
But
imagine you're moving at essentially Barry Allen speed,
mhm,
right?
you're the
That's
Flash.
the Flash
Yeah.
from DC, right? You're moving at Flash momentum, and everyone is slowed down, right? So now you're trying to do some kind of CE5 or reaching out to a UFO with a flashlight or laser, like, man, if they're moving at that fast of speed and time's slow and for them, but just wrapping your head around it is like headache inducing.
Yeah.
Like, how are they seeing anything like of any type of contact for CE5 or whatever?
Yeah, actually, explain what CE5 is in case like anybody doesn't know.
So CE5 is essentially close encounter of the fifth kind, which is the us initiating contact with aliens. You have the first, second, third, and fourth, which was developed, um,
Mhm.
by Jale and Hynek. And then we have Stephen Greer coming out, and Dr. Greer, he was an ER doctor. I'm sure he still has his license for that.
Mhm.
And he developed a protocol known as CE5. So CE5 centers around meditation, group meditation, essentially opening yourself up for an invitation to have contact and communicate with alien life form. He has said that everyone should do this. This is something the world should unite around and do to really push. If we want to make the difference, if
Mhm.
we want to be the ones to communicate, then we need to band together and we need to do that. But before that, I'm going to be needing about 350 because
350?
he has an app that he sells,
Yeah.
right? So then this message gets tainted with, oh, well, hey, if you want to buy my videos or books, and I have an app that, all the CE5, how to do it's on that app. You can subscribe to it,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man, you had such a good message, dude.
Well, two
Like,
things. I watched his documentary. And
yep.
his documentary,
Which
once
one?
it the recent one,
The
the
recent
really
one.
and it felt a bit culty to me. All of a sudden, it's like don't believe all of these people, and a
Yep.
couple of the people, I guess, who had given quotes for it, or was the talking heads, so to speak, had said like that was edited in a way where I was like attacking Elizondo, and I wasn't doing
Absolutely.
that. And so like that happened. It does play off a little culty, I felt like.
Absolutely does.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and I'm going to say that most people, myself included, don't really know how to meditate for shit. Are not experts in it. Most people don't meditate. You can't necessarily make a free app. You can make a free app if it's ad supported, but it's like, how are you going to, unless he had a bunch of donors. So the charging for the app thing, I'm on the fence about it.
I
I'm a
get
little
it. I
bit,
get it,
yeah.
but it does taint the message,
Yeah.
right?
No,
Like,
it does. But it's like
it
it's like
does.
it's like apps don't get made for free. Apps aren't hosted for free. Like there's expenses that come with it.
And it's really cool if you want to meet up with a local group
Yeah.
around you of people that want to try it, want to go out and go to the desert or wherever, the forest, and try this.
I was considering doing it for this, for one of the Saturday episodes.
Oh,
because I
what
did
if
like
I
a
go out
search.
too?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, I
Yeah,
go out
no.
and you're out remotely.
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah, but I thought it would be fun. I was thinking about contacting one of the groups out here who does it, because I saw that there's like a meetup app, and there's people who are doing it on there. And I was considering like being like, hey, I want to do this. I don't want to make fun of you. I'm not going to like, but I want to see if you guys do this, and I want to see if something happens. You know what I mean? And if it does.
So how I would bring it to them.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't want to take part of the meditation, but I do want to document. And I'm documenting this for basically like all to see and to show what you're seeing. In no way am I going to try and edit this in any one way to push any type of agenda. I want to document your experience and share it. And be a cameraman. I want to be the camera.
Yeah. I don't want to, necessarily make a all gas, no brakes, like parody of your culture or your get together or whatever. Like, some of that stuff's pretty funny, I think, but I don't want to do that. I just want to go and see it. And then if it does work and I do see it, then I'm like, hey, I'll do it with you. I'm in.
And I've heard people say that Stephen Greer charges like $3,000 for these retreats and everything. And I'll get, like you said, like, it's not cheap. You want to do something like, hey, he's doing something for himself, whatever.
He had like celebrities doing it with him. That's why I said, like, this feels a little bit like Tom Cruise's Next, maybe.
I liked his first two movies. Okay. I think the third one, knowing what I know and kind of digging my claws into how it was done, I think it was definitely, like you said, edited to push a one-sided agenda. I never agreed with him that all alien species are this, class 5 civilization that's in harmony with everything. I mean, what would that look like?
I hope so, but
what's harmony, right?
But but at the same time, like that sounds very conformist, and that could be scary unto itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole can of worms to open up with that, right? But now the question is being tossed around is initiating contact using CE5 dangerous possibly? Is it opening up a bridge that we shouldn't be connecting with? Are there going to be any consequences by having contact like this? Either behind the scenes when people disperse, go home, hey, a year from now, all of a sudden you and your family are targeted for abductions. I don't know. I'm just saying I haven't seen any evidence of that, right? And I defend CE5 because I do believe it's actually a pretty legit way. These things, I think, aren't just nuts and bolts, joystick, whatever operation. I think that they're tying into these using chips that enhance or cybernetic, upgrades within their system itself. Maybe they're half machine, half human, or, whatever. That help them use these machines. Maybe that is the way to contact them. Maybe that's the way to talk to them or get their attention.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, is like, you can't deny, like, if you just want to go like what's been associated with the phenomenon throughout the last 50 years, is there's always this telepathic component that it's always brought up from like Bob Lazar insinuating that I think he insinuates that you probably have to use your mind to fly the thing because there's no buttons, there's no controls, or just a chair.
Right.
And stuff like that. So it's like, and that it's weird because it adds this whole extra layer of like, so if I want to believe in flying saucers, now I gotta believe in telepathy. You know what I mean? It's like it adds it's a hard sell.
Is it though? Look at what
I don't
is
know.
Elon Musk doing with a chip. He's
Right.
upgrading the brain.
Yeah.
1,000 years from now, could you see our whole bodies having that upgrade?
Yeah, I saw a
Tying
video.
it into everything of a Tesla car.
Yeah, there's like a
or a
Facebook
craft?
technology that they supposedly have kind of shelved as being used for Facebook. Who knows? But it's supposed to. But a guy who had a stroke and he can't speak and he can't write, he's able to like use his mind when he puts this like little diode on his head. He's able to type on a screen using it. So it's like, yeah, when you get down to it, I mean, if you take that technology and you upscale it by a couple of 100 years, then you know who knows, right?
Right.
Like what it could be, and that's where you always run into that idea of something looks like it's magic when you don't understand it until you understand the technology, the science of it, and but you do have those new age loonies who cloud it all up, and that's where I think it makes it a hard sell. Like anybody who has that crazy aunt who thinks that she was, you know, Cleopatra in her past life and all that kind of stuff, and then you're just like, no, you weren't. You're not. You're very basic. You definitely weren't.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah. It's just like it's all these like crazy things, and so those life experiences make it hard to to contend with. But I, like I said, I'm to the point now like where I was super cynical about it all. Like I wanted it to be real. And I had a point where you just couldn't figure it out. And then I just got to a point where I was just like, okay, I'm just going to write this off because if I can't know the answer, I'm not going to waste my time pondering it. But I feel like now we have, I don't think they would have told us what they have told us if they didn't have a shit ton more. So and I believe that they do.
Have you ever seen pigeons, Jason?
Unfortunately, yes. Flying rats, as I call them.
Same. Have you ever seen baby pigeons?
No. I actually haven't.
Just because you haven't seen them,
yeah,
doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right.
Right? Just because we can't validate visually or perceptually these things doesn't mean they aren't part of how everything works. Right? Like, so that's, I always use the baby pigeon, you know, because no one's seen a fucking baby pigeon. Come on. Yeah. Right? Like, no one's seen that shit. So if they, you know, if they answer
somebody
yes,
in the chat who's like, I'm a pigeon courier. And yes, I see them all the time. Morons.
Of birds and love them. And yeah, you know, so pigeon courier.
It would be, I wonder if we could hack a pigeon's brain to fly around and give us video, and then they could catch the UAPs for us. Because those pigeons have seen some shit, you know that.
That's actually something.
Yeah. No,
I've heard of classified projects in the past, right? Isn't it pigeons where we program pigeons to?
Well, I when I was doing some outside scholarship work, I had to take I did work in geography, and I ended up getting in with the futurists, the geography department, and there were CIA programs to put cameras and moths to spy on people, and they worked. They worked. They were able to like put little cameras on moths, and
I can tell you
crazy stuff.
I can tell you without telling you.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. Oh no, I read. I mean, like these were articles, and in the articles they were talking about how like they like did that, and the articles were delving into like how we're moving into a future where there is actually like no such thing as true privacy. Like, you know, before what it used to take to get candid footage of somebody that was awful. Now, what's it going to mean when the creep down the street can hook it up to a moth and control it into your
But
shower.
can the creep
You know,
down the street do that for real? Like a lot
someday,
of times takes
someday. So
yeah,
the
someday.
the idea for the futurist is someday.
Someday,
It
right.
is yeah.
Is
That
it accessible to everyone?
yeah, they're not saying it's accessible in any way now, but like that's something that we need to start thinking of as a society. You know, how are we gonna need to start making rules and policing that kind of stuff early on before it becomes a problem. Like, and I don't think we will. I mean, even drones, like a lot of places still don't have that many rules for drones, and you hear crazy
Oh,
shit that they're doing. But it's
so
getting better for drones for sure.
because I have to, have my FAA pilots, drone license, right?
Right.
And all sorts of stuff, and have to do the training and the tests and everything, and be certified and everything on the up and up.
Mhm.
I can tell you, I see that as they are 100% going to start cracking down on who can fly these things.
Yeah.
They have to. They have
Yeah.
to. Or
Yeah.
else it's going to be mass chaos.
Yeah.
Especially when the technology is good enough to, 3,000 feet isn't my window?
Yeah.
Going up.
Well, yeah, and you also have like, you also have to assume that people aren't going to follow the rules as well. Like I do think like, yeah, there when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's insane, but at the same time, it's also like the go-to. Like every time there's a UAP and it's clearly not a balloon, oh, it's a drone, and it's like that's the other one where it's like we've caught up to we've gotten to the point now where it could be, but it's probably not every time, or most times it's not.
Stephen Greenstreet. I think he wavers on the topic. Like, like he gets so burnt out and frustrated, I think, because he's digging and delving. Do you know who I'm talking about? New York
I think
Post
so.
reporter.
Yeah. The basement
office.
the basement dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
But
Big fan
like
of that guy.
he gets really Thrawn Talk, what's up?
What's up,
He
nerd?
gets really like frustrated with ufology, just like everyone else in ufology has gotten, throughout the years, right? Because it's a dangling carrot in front of you that you constantly keep chasing and never get. But he just recently, I saw him hit a wall of frustration, started really like siding with a lot of like skeptics and stuff. And like, everyone was putting up all these, like just designs of experimental craft that haven't even been built yet. And they're like, doesn't this look like a Tic Tac? Just saying. Like, but it's not even really. But he actually, I think, just recently he did a report. I do believe he's doing a basement office where he talked to actual witnesses from a UFO case, UAP case. And I think that kind of made him snap back into like, oh, it's not just people on Twitter saying stuff. It's actual people that are having real experiences.
Right.
That they're intelligent individuals that I'm able to sit and question. And I think that kind of grounded him and put him back into like, okay, let's do this. Let's investigate this further,
Right. So to go back to what we were talking about before, have you tried the CE5 meditations?
So I love the theory of having this like magical moment of meditating with a group of people, like-minded individuals. My girlfriend, God love her, she's a person that's very intelligent. Looks at things with a skeptical but believing, thought, just like I do. And we want to have these experiences, but gosh damn it, we have kids, and we cannot ever get a moment where it's just her. Not, you know what I mean? Like, and when we do, we're exhausted and we sleep like every other parent. But man, I really do want to get out. I'm like, one of these days, I'm just gonna be like, honey, my kids are at their mother's. I'm leaving for the night, and I'm gonna go do a CE5 with a group of people. Yeah. But I want to do it with her, right? Like, I want to do it with people like you and stuff like that. But it's finding time to do these things.
Right.
You know, as a
No, no,
parent,
I get it. Oh, I know. Trust me.
it's so hard to do
Yeah.
these things.
No, that's why like I've had my days off and I'm doing this right here because I just get to chill.
Right?
Talk to you and you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. So the Bob Lazar thing with Element 115 is like, so I don't know that much about science. I'm not a huge science guy. And so people kind of write it off because they're like, yeah, eventually they were going to discover that one because it wasn't there yet. But is
Well,
that I don't know if and that's what the naysayers would say about it. But I don't know if that is exactly true. Like is the
I'll be
atomic
honest.
number?
It's atomic number 115, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and but isn't that assigned? Is that assigned just because it's the next one, or is it assigned,
right.
or is it
That's from
assigned by
my
like,
understanding.
or is it assigned by like isotopes and all of this other things that make it a unique?
I'm
Yeah.
not educated just like you, and when I'm not educated in something enough to
Yeah.
really talk about it, I'm not going to sit here, open up my cheeks, and start flapping bullshit.
Right. Yeah. I
Right?
used to know this, but that's what they say. And so you'll hear people who say like that's an amazing part about Bob Lazar is that he predicted that. And then I think it's called Moscovium and it was
Well, that's like
discovered by
saying I
Russians.
predict flying cars.
Right. Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to happen, right?
Episode they're breaking episode 10.
Case.
I'm
If
breaking it
that's
right
the
now.
case.
I'm breaking the news. Episode 10, it's coming.
I believe Bob won.
I'll be right someday. But at the
believe
same
Bob.
time, yeah, I know. I think like I believe Bob Lazar as much as I can without complete validation. You know what I mean? Without the complete like the complete story. Like there's a lot working for Bob.
The way he describes the government and the process that he went through is it's so dead on, dude. It's so half-assed kind of thought being put into such a big thing.
Yeah.
That's military 100%. Like honestly.
The one thing though about like that you'll hear is like the hand scanners thing. Like he had that.
Yeah.
But you can
That's
see
a
that
big thing.
But that hand scanners in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie.
Man.
Yeah, I'm just saying though. Yeah, it turns out it's like
I just watched that movie the other night with
there
my
is a
girlfriend.
moment and you
let's watch
see
it.
yeah, so it's like there are things about the Bob Lazar story that are and it doesn't mean that that's not evidence, but it does take away from it being like he was the only one who knew. Clearly the people who make Close Encounters of the Third Kind knew enough about how that stuff worked and had interviewed enough people to know that it was a thing. So he could have got it from the film.
I mean, he could, I guess.
but you know, but I don't know. I just go
so I saw one body language expert review his interview right on Joe Rogan and be like, yeah, like from what I'm seeing, these are all the telltale signs he's telling the truth, which is, you know. And then I saw these older group of, you know, body linguists and they're like breaking down, they're like, he's lying. Like I'm like, well, which one is it, guys?
I'm gonna I don't know if I buy into the body language stuff because when you're on camera,
not if it's by a human.
Yeah, well, when you're on camera, it's you're not really being natural for the most part. Like you'd have to be like a really, really seasoned like performer who's been on camera a lot. Like it,
or
I think
enjoyed Crystal Head
Crystal
vodka.
Crystal Head vodka.
This, by the way, is Dan Aykroyd's vodka. It is filtered over Herkimer diamonds, which have a purity property within them as a mineral. So it adds a very distinct smoothness to the vodka. If you want to sponsor our show, Crystal Head, just go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter.
Or if Dan Aykroyd just wants to come and hang out.
Or I would love to interview Dan Aykroyd. Does everyone know in chat, by the way, this might blow your mind, Dan Aykroyd is a huge, I'd say expert. Would you say expert, Jason?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd say expert.
He's a very rich man
with expert
with a passion for the paranormal.
Absolutely. Like his knowledge level and ability to discuss stuff, just like we're doing, shooting the shit. But a lot of times, man, he comes out with some really intense like facts
Yeah.
I love Dan Aykroyd, by the way. I think he's a
Yeah, same.
genuine like treasure,
He's a
national treasure.
Ghostbuster. He's a Ghostbuster, man.
Yeah, he's the heart of the
He's the
Ghostbusters.
heart of the Ghostbusters. Yeah, and I've always wondered about Dan Aykroyd because he's so into it, but so famous that I feel like people would leak real stuff to him. Like I wonder, I bet you he's
Possibly.
seen like classified stuff that's compelling.
Not to my knowledge, through the interviews and stuff I've seen with him.
But if he was told not to, he wouldn't say.
If he was told not to, he probably wouldn't say. But then again, he is a believer that the public needs to know.
Yeah,
the public should know. You know, Aykroyd owned all those books from the movie from his store. Yeah, those were his books. Yes,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tobin's Spirit Guide is actually Dan Aykroyd. No,
you can buy a Tobin Spirit Guide, by the way. I have a proton pack in the other room in my display case. I'll send you a picture of it.
Whoa, that's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got like the it's just a print, everybody, but my friend gave it to me, so it's very special to me, and it has all the autographs of the Ghostbusters, all 4 of them.
Oh, that's rad.
Just a print of it.
Yeah,
but I love it because it does look cherry on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send a picture of you. All my Ghostbuster stuff.
Yeah, I want to see it, man. Throd Talk says my brother is in the Navy on a carrier, and they have shit flying around them all the time. They can't ID. Yeah, and was that a weird component of the UAP report? Was like, didn't it not include like a lot of like Air Force stuff and stuff like that? Like
Air Force
it was just
well. From what I'm hearing, so it was somewhat tied with the Air Force, but then not at all acknowledged by the Air Force. You know, a weird dynamic going on there, where you'd think that the different agencies or branches of the military rather would be talking about this,
right?
Why isn't the Air Force talking about it? And that question's being raised more and more now. Why is, I think, because they'd be kind of poked and prodded to maybe, hey, tell us more about the drones you're using. Like, don't you think you should, hey, maybe you should clear up the air. Like, hey, show us what you got. Like, hey, can we knock on this hangar and go check it out with my 60 Minutes reporters? Like, is that okay with you guys? And the thing is, it's not okay, and it's not cool.
Yeah, it's national security.
Right. We do have to keep that very close to the chest, and we need to understand that while we have answers that we need, or questions that need answers.
Yeah.
If we say, here's the report, it's been viewed and assessed, we don't know what these are, it's been analyzed. We have to, as the public, I hate to say this. Now, listen up, folks. I hate to say this, but we have to trust in our government. We do. Okay? We do. To a certain extent, there has to be that trust, because we still, even though there's a question of whether or not, ET zipping around, all over the place without us being able to see it, there's a very good chance that there's ETs zipping around doing, who knows?
Yeah,
that's going on, right?
Well, that's the whole thing is like there has to be a way of letting us see stuff or know about stuff without giving away the our capabilities. And like that's what kind of sucks is everything is always, it's going to take like when something's 30 years old and the technology is advanced, then that's when we could see stuff. And they're not even really showing us stuff from 20 years ago right now. And so it's kind of frustrating because it makes me think that it, under the guise of nationals,
military like I do, I bet you that's because we're still using the 20-year-old stuff very heavily, probably.
I had a friend in the military who was playing like one of the latest like Call of Duty games, like modern, one of the ones, like I don't know if it was Modern Warfare or one of the future ones.
Was it the one where they go to freaking space or something?
But well, basically this person has used things that are classified that he can't talk about. He didn't tell me what it was or anything like that. But he's like, this shit is classified and it's in the video game right now.
It's in the video game because,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
What if it's that's another thing? Let's talk about that. So people are like, hey, I can't talk about this. It's secret information, But yeah, I think it is. Like Lou says all the time, like, I can't really divulge whether or not, because due to my, security clearances. But yeah, I think like, so which one is it, Lou? Is it classified and you can't talk about it? Or are we just going to go ahead and talk about it? He's really good at doing the secret squirrel talk. So,
right. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm like for instance, if they have the picture of a UAP shot from 50 feet away, or at least what it looks like you'll hear Corbell saying they have spy satellites that can see what drink you have in your hand right now. Like those have taken pictures of UAP. Like they're pretty convinced of it. I think people have told him, and he's saying it like it's theoretical, but I feel like he knows this is real. And he's just not saying that. And it's like, so how about you go and, like, I don't know, can you just crop everything out and show us this is what the crafts look like? We know this is exactly what it like I wish they would just jump around it. And that's where I would be okay trusting my government to say, look, we can't give you the actual footage, or we can't give you, or we've deleted everything around it. And we're not giving you the 25K resolution. We're giving you this in 1080p.
Here's my idea of why they can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if they're like, hey, here it is, we don't know what this is. This UAP is legit.
Right.
Not made of this earth, probably. Like, this is what it looks like.
Right.
You have China going, I know what I'm going to make now. All right. Design it like this.
Yeah.
We'll be able to fly over our skies and everyone be like, look, another UAP.
Right.
And then meanwhile, they're like, snap, 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 snap. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like.
I just, it's weird because I feel like this, like it's like either these things are never going to really truly interact with us in a meaningful way. And this is all about nothing when you get down to it, but they do exist, but they don't care. Or they do care, and there's a plan that's good or bad for us. But either way, it's like of these three options, two of them really matter to how we should be behaving, like to how humanity should be dealing with itself. And it's like you would hope that it, like I was saying before, like when it comes to like issues of like race, like the issue of race feels very, very like it should be very, very tiny. When there's other things than humans. Humans are the best, and you would hope that stupid shit would start to fall away.
We are so horrible.
No, we are. I'm not.
But we're also beautiful. It's so.
No, we can be very, very terrible. There's no doubt about that.
Now you're a creative guy, Jason, right?
I hope so. I think so.
Our chat, they're creative folk. Okay. I'm going to propose to try to kind of get some ideas going of alien agendas.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to propose a scenario of who you all are and what your reasoning would be for coming and doing what you're doing to us. Okay.
You're right.
Like whether you want to involve abductions in that or just an observation, whatever it is. Okay. You are a interdimensional being that coexists, all right,
okay,
on this planet in another dimension,
another spectrum of light or something. Yeah,
layers of dimensions on top of dimensions. Think Loki. Okay, the variants. All right,
right.
You're able to hop to other dimensions, if you will.
Little bunny rabbit.
Little bunny rabbit. You have a craft that allows you to do these things. You have technology that serves you to do these things. Why?
Rick and Morty, it's a party. No.
I mean, are you billionaires just able to afford the trip on the UFO? What that person on Twitter said earlier.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, is it the equivalent
why?
of the zoo where they fly around? Is this like the wild animal park? You know, but at the same time, like that sounds very trivial to me. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that they would want to rule us. That wouldn't what would we really have to do for them? They've hit the singularity. Like they don't need things probably done for them. You know what I
If
mean?
you have a comment in chat, by the way, if anyone wants to reply, please do. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear what your theories are on possible reasons that you would have to travel to a alternate dimension, if you will. All right. And do what supposedly is being experienced in, ufology of visitation, abductions,
Right.
breeding program, resource grab.
Yeah, Mike.
That's a good, that's a good thing, right? Because these things are being seen analyzing volcanoes.
They're
Right?
always in the ocean. Like one of the dominant, I don't know if it's a dominant theory, but one of the theories I hear about the most is that however they power their vehicles, they're able to get hydrogen out of the water. And that could be one way. We're a gas station. The intergalactic theory.
Buckshot says information, period.
Right.
Like you said, observation, strictly observation. So if you remember a couple podcasts ago or videos ago, I mentioned this book right here.
Oh yeah.
Walking Among Us. This is the alien plan to control humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Because we are going to go down a crazy rabbit hole. Okay.
Okay.
And
ready.
this is from David M. Jacobs. I'm going to turn on my light so I can read.
Do it.
My vision's going.
Get those peepers ready.
Okay. So David M. Jacobs is an American historian and recently retired associate professor of history at Temple University, specializing in 20th century American history and culture. Jacobs is also well known in the field of ufology for his research and authoring of books on the subject of alien abductions. Visit him at www.ufoabductions.com, which we'll get back to that website in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
So, this isn't a psychologist. This is someone who has a PhD, clearly, but obviously does ufology as a side, right? Like a side interest. Apparently, he has been trained as a hypnotherapist, and he has patients that he deals with. And in his sessions with these patients, he is describing a kind of an alien agenda of creating alien hybrids that are then the hybrids themselves genetically again paired with humans to create what's known as a hybrid.
Okay, the hybrids.
Ready? I know this already sounds crazy as shit, right? So let's keep reading. Okay, so hybrids are a product of hybridization. Okay, they're basically essentially trying to get us on a similar level enough to where they're carrying over that, like you said, that transcendence. Right. However, returning back to their genetic code more humanity. So I'm going to sidestep away from this book and mention that a lot of things being said about the Greys themselves throughout ufology and reports is that they could possibly be android type beings, more machine than man, twisted and evil.
Yeah, like techno beings of some kind.
Right. Now, let's just say these techno beings are an alternate version of human.
Right. I think did we lose him? I think we lost him. You locked up for a second.
Weird. Yeah, you did too.
Okay.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we're hitting on something. All right, so these techno beings are wanting to bring part of that core element of humanity back to their
Right.
race. All right. Or a Cuban coming. Now I'm hearing a lot of sound that's on your side, I think.
Yeah, that was a motorcycle.
So they're breeding essentially these hybrids that have the ability to walk amongst us.
Right.
Okay. And these patients are describing that all of a sudden, they're having these abduction experiences on a ship, like the common alien abductions that we've heard of in the past.
Right.
And then these abductions are, involving infants and babies, and they're seeing this. And then fast forward, now it's just they're being taken from their home. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Brought to an apartment.
Right.
And told, you need to teach them how to set up this living room or this apartment, this living space. Teach them basics. Teach them to make macaroni and cheese. Teach them this. Teach them that.
Yeah.
Hey, can you teach them how to drive? And all of a sudden, these people are having to be like mentors or teachers to this group of like completely, like, I'd have to say, on the realm of being highly, ignorant of the way of life as we know it.
Right.
And then like, no, you eat salad with the fork, not the spoon. Right? Like,
yeah.
And just teaching them, observing them, and then kind of giving them lessons. And then these people are, brought back by the handler, and essentially their memory is wiped, but they know that they had this missing time. They know they had this and this. This book delves into these patients and their experiences that are very similar throughout these patients that don't know each other.
These aliens should just get on YouTube and look up some table etiquette, how to drive
It's
the car.
funny you say that. So these experiences that he's documented were a little bit before the years of YouTube, I'm guessing. All right. So now I'm sure you have them TikToking probably all over the place, right?
I'm pretty sure a couple of YouTubers are aliens. I'm just pretty sure of it. I have no evidence for that. I just know.
I can't pinpoint the origin of Mike Zero's comment. All right, so this weird rabbit hole that we're going down is again talking about the agenda that why would you come to Earth, our planet, if you're not maybe from another planet, or maybe you are,
right?
Why are you? But then at the same time, if hybridization has any merit to it whatsoever, how are they able to merge the two? Is it just technology that allows them to sequence the DNA and merge it, or is it because they're another version of us,
right,
that evolved differently and under different circumstances, and or is it us in the future that's lost humanity and has to go back and not interfere with the timeline and do what they're doing and trying to save their race?
Yeah, it makes me think of when Elizondo says people should be prepared that there's not mankind, there's mankind's, a plural version of it. And that we
rings true, right?
Yeah, it seems completely possible. I mean, especially if you believe in life on other planets that's intelligent, existing, then it makes sense. And it's like, if you just think of it from like a butterfly effect kind of way, who knows what little things happened that made our species win out over some other, like, kind of, why did Homo sapiens win? You know what I mean? Like, it could have went the other way just if the climate had been a little bit different in a certain way and things like that. And so if you're on a different planet, different world, and life does kind of all form up kind of the same and isn't as unique as we think in the way that it is, it makes complete sense that you could have that happen. And
let's address some of the chat here, because I'm reading some of these. So up top, Thrawn Talk podcast, he mentioned that a layer of carbon around the world dates back to 10,000 years. They helped reseed our population with the start of the Anunnaki. So that whole thought process is part of this, like, I kind of want to say it's part of that whole core concept of like, we figured it out.
Mhm.
Chariots of the gods, man.
Right.
They're falling out of the sky, like, like whatever. It could be Thrawn
Mhm.
talk. It very well could be they've had a hand. And if we're looking at it from this agenda, from this book, this crazy rabbit hole book, if we're looking at it from that agenda, wouldn't they want to maybe try to also improve our genetics? Going all the way back, if time travel's not a thing to them,
Yeah.
problem, couldn't they maybe seed along the way, veer us on a right course instead of a wrong course? Was there a nuclear war that could have happened in the 80s but didn't because of their intervention?
One of the things I found interesting that kind of like taps into that idea of like of genetics and aliens, if they are aliens, um, is this thing where there's this theory by Kit Green that our immune system records everything. Everything that happens to us is recorded by the immune
That's
system.
fascinating theory.
And I think was it you who told me that like people who had encounters have like a higher white blood cell
Yep.
count
Yeah, that's
and
been something associated with
associated with it.
abductions.
Yeah, and so like and one of the weird things that I saw on from I think I heard something about it on Reddit and then went on Wikipedia and looked up Elizondo, and one of his major was immunology. That was his other thing, and I was like, is there something to this? Is that why they picked him to be? Is that one of the reasons that? I mean, he was like a military guy who understood that part of our our bodies really really well, considering his major.
He said he was voluntold.
Mm.
When you're voluntold to do something,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, there's reasons that they pick certain soldiers to do certain things, right?
Right.
So, that rings true to a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that concept, even just as a science fiction concept, fascinating. Whether it's real or not would be very interesting if it's real.
And I know that they've talked about like looking at the
Mm.
similarities of people who have had encounters, and is there any correlating traits that can tie them together? And indeed, I do believe he's said in the past, like, indeed there is, and
Yeah.
I can't get into it, but blah blah. There are certain things that are being looked at now that are interesting to behold. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Eric Denton says, could it be aliens are on a scouting mission waiting for humans to go extinct so they can essentially take Earth as a new homeworld colony? Earth is a Goldilocks planet that can sustain life. Yeah,
That would make him like the most ethical alien invaders of all time. They're like, you know what? We're not going to help, but we're going to let you guys kill yourselves. And
we
then take
really
a shit.
need the space, guys. And you're on a really awesome highway. But we're kind of just chill and we're going to observe. When you guys obviously burn each other out, we're going to move right in. Like, ethically sound.
Right? And what if they're just in the ocean chilling with the whales, going like, these guys are cool. These other guys are kind of assholes. These dolphins know how to party, though.
Now that sounds good, except if we're going to talk about UFOs and UAPs in the sky, eventually on the mainstream, I warn you now, eventually they're going to get to the subject of abductions.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a whole different bag that we have to open up and dig through. And that's going to involve during many of these abductions, people are talking about them taking sperm and ova and stuff like that. Like, why would they do that? If those questions are even pondered, and I think, again, we are not ready to start talking about those questions openly in the mainstream because, frankly, it leads you to a path of agenda.
Mm-hmm.
on the alien side, right? The ET
Yeah,
side,
and
the
I
visitor
could think
side.
of like, yeah, you could go down the rabbit hole of they're going to alter our genetics, or they're going to do this or that, or maybe they just want to make some humans so that way they have their own, so that way they could just study them straight up,
Could
like a
be.
dog. You know what I mean? Like, it's all kinds of reasons you could think of why they would do something like that. But even since like that TV movie that freaked me out as a kid, Intruders, that was a book.
Mhm.
That was one of the things it dealt with, and at the end, it got really like, oh, this is my star child. I remember something like that at the end, like we're like, oh, I was like, oh God, I'm like,
That
this movie
goes
scared.
into, for me, like a
Yeah,
lot of the people that are the very like new age spirituality believers in ufology, and there's a lot of people that really they want answers, and they do their part of research, and again they're on that spectrum where they believe a lot more than maybe they should.
right.
A lot of disinformation, a lot of lies, a lot of this murking up the waters. And honestly, know what that sounds like to me
Mm,
as a DM of 25 years
mm-hmm.
for D&D? That sounds like LARPing.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a live action role play with each other, saying, yes, I'm the special one that's in contact with these beings, the
Right.
Atlanteans. I'm sure you see these YouTube commercials. I'm not the only one who sees these weird alien YouTube commercials, right? Like the Atlanteans show us these symbols, and they're the symbols of light and blah, 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 right? It seems like very much LARPing to me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at actual case files, actual kind of, looked at, somewhat dug into on a thorough basis, as much as they could for the time and understanding of this subject, like the Betty and Barney Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get a chance, listen to Barney Hill's audio of his
Oh,
hypnotic
I have. It's
regression session.
terrifying. Yeah,
It's
he's
it's honestly scary. Okay.
yeah. Let me ask you this. If that happened, and so for the purpose of the chat, whether I'm asking the chat and everyone, just let's just believe it happened for this idea. So it did happen. We have an alien civilization or society or culture coming and meeting up with us for the very first time, two races of creatures that have never been in contact, or at least not really that we know of. For instance, let's just pretend. Is it okay? Like, do we forgive them if that really horrible depiction of the Travis Walton book happens, where if there were people being abducted and having their organs harvested to be looked at and stuff like that? Do we forgive that? Is that okay? And I know when you just take it like, no, every life is important, I totally like get on that train, and I agree. On the other hand, I'm like, this is a really big event that is going on over time. But if it's real, and if it is that, then it's like, like, do we get freaked out? Do we go right down back to the 1990s where it was all about alien abductions? We weren't talking about UFOs anymore. It was that they're going to come in your room and get you and take your baby. Like, do we go right back to that, or do we have like a more grown up, is it a grown up perspective of, yeah, what they may have done is something that we probably did to them, and that any society would probably do and create in finding a new creature. It would be horrible if we found mermaids and we cut one open to see what was inside, but you fucking know we would do it. Like, if we found one, that bitch is getting cut. Like, you know what I mean? It would happen. And so it's like, yeah, it's a really like complicated kind of thing, because like I said, we hit that point where if you go with the alien idea, and then that the UAPs have aliens inside them of some kind, non-humans, then you kind of have to start to take the alien abductions way more seriously, like as you were alluding to.
So now, saying that,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna then flip it and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, so if there's something to that, let's say it's true,
Okay.
okay. Now, what's been the whole big hold for the government disclosing anything about it, right? What was their saying? That basically we would go in mass chaos, people wouldn't attend their jobs anymore, supposedly that's why they've held back in saying anything about this.
Right.
Do you see people freaking out to the point where they're going to say, nah, I'm not going to work tomorrow. People on another planet exist. Woo!
Right. Right. Yeah. And even I don't know if this is true. So I could be completely wrong, but I have heard that even the stories of the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast were grossly exaggerated and not really true.
I asked my grandmother directly, and she said, yeah, she goes, no, people didn't do that. We saw in the paper some people did that, and usually it was down south. You know, I'm from New York, Italian.
Yeah.
My nanny, Italian grandmother, you know, she's
Mhm.
like, but they're from the south. Like,
Yeah, and it's like it's like that
horrible write off of a whole culture of people down there as being ignorant. But you know, that's the way it is.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like, so there's not really like, but that's like kind of one of the things that you would hear being used as how we couldn't handle it is the
Now,
Orson Welles example, and we could.
Now, could
Yeah.
you handle this?
Mhm.
Knowing they aren't from another planet, that is us in the future, that
Yeah.
have suffered a very drastic change in our evolution to evolve into that status due to
Mhm.
the fact that we have had multiple nuclear wars and devastation that have forced us in underground areas and that have developed us as a species to essentially look like that and fuse technology with ourselves to the
Mhm.
point with our human, you know, gender is no longer a thing. We breed by test tube, you know, so to speak, and that's us in the future.
The answer is yes, because it means we survived. It means that it like, 'cause like if we imagine our race of people is going to exist forever, then shit is going to happen.
Okay,
We're
so
going to live through catastrophes and ice ages and all kinds of crazy stuff. That's yeah, that's reality,
now,
right?
now again, we are very open-minded. I
Mhm.
think creative individuals that can wrap our heads around elaborate things, quite
Sure.
frankly, and understand on a bigger level. Do you think the regular general public hearing that they're not from space, that's us in the future,
Yeah.
as a headline, do you think that would go over well?
Well, what I think is ultimately, let's just pretend like we're at the day where they're like, okay, so here's what's up, guys. They are this from here. Here's what they're doing. Here's what they want. Here's our relationship to them, and this is reality. Then you're just gonna automatically you're gonna have people who go, that's a lie. That's not true. Um, no, you're gonna have a large amount of people who won't believe it, who won't accept it, no matter what they say, and that's where, to a certain extent, I'm just like, that's why if they do know anything, they might as well just tell us. And if it is that bad, like for instance, you know, like you'll hear people like go like, what if we're just they're Soylent Green? They're just going to eat us someday. Like you have like that kind of idea.
Oh, there's
I would,
some in UFO
yeah,
mythology that
yeah.
LARPing. There's like the Greys they're the bad ones, and they come here to drain our adrenal gland because it's like a cocaine to them. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? This is legit. Like,
Party,
people
man,
believe
party,
this.
Grays.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, party Greys.
no, but my take is, okay, cool. That sucks. So now we need to figure out how we're going to kick some Gray's ass. Like that's what it, I mean, if that's the reality of the situation, you know what I mean? If that's, or if there's some eventuality that it like if we figured it out, it would be horrible. Then it's better to get on with it and like, let, you know, I guess like let us solve the problem, or start to try to address it, than to go like, no, we just need top men on it. You know what I mean? That's kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. I would rather, you know, or
Have you
if
heard
it,
that theory before? Like
Mhm.
that it's us in the future, and they're
Yeah.
here for this reason. So, you know, I've heard it, and I honestly, I think that's one of the better theories, that they're
Mhm.
from another dimension,
Yeah.
that they're similar enough to us,
Right.
possibly, and we can't see them normally because it is a dimensional thing.
Right.
When they want to show themselves to us, sometimes we'll see them out of the corner of our eye. Because if you didn't know, our human eyes can pick up IR light at times under certain conditions, right? A lot of the corner of the eye, you see weird shit. Supposedly, we can see IR. If that's the case, are we seeing actual things that are
Right.
around us on another level?
Yeah, or does that explain people who've seen ghosts and things like that? You know what I mean? Like when you hear like paranormal theories or stories about like shadow people and stuff like that. It's like, well, maybe
Well, I have a love for ghost hunting too,
do you?
and paranormal.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a ghost hunting
I
tips.
I figured. I figured. I mean, honestly, I said really, and as soon as I said really, I was like, that felt disingenuous. I know he does.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know he does.
Yeah. So, I think, again, these things are tied together.
Yeah.
I think that they're not so far apart that it's a separate thing. I think
Yeah.
it's all part of the same fold.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that's what I had a hard time with, or like the concept of like Skinwalker Ranch. When you hear that like at first and you're like, oh, there's like Bigfoot, ghost, UFO, like all that stuff. It's like, okay, you're making up a Disneyland. Like that's what the cynic, when you first hear, or like when I used to hear about it, like that's what you think of, like, oh, a bunch of bullshit. But then if you start to break into the interdimensional beings idea and that kind of concept, then it starts to make a whole lot of possible sense how those things all connect, and how we were seeing a lot of phenomena as unrelated that actually could be. It's interesting.
Yeah, this book, as crazy as it sounds, it reads pretty fun. Because I mean, they're so the hybrids are so just out of touch with anything human that the encounters with them are almost to the point of comical. I love the fact that, by the way, within this book, there's a patient that he gave the pseudonym of Karen. This is written.
Show Karen how to how to ask for the manager.
I'm going to ask you one question. How do you think Karen took to being abducted and told, like, hey, you got to teach these people how to like do this and that? It's you have to, or else, hey,
did she ask to talk to the president?
Karen is very belligerent towards them, and Karen Morgan is a woman who has a mental ability to put up some resistance to her abductions, an ability that varies between abductees. She had frustrating talks similar to another patient's. Nevertheless, the aliens told her she was considered a valuable component in their plans. In April 2006, she was taken into a UFO where part of the time she was made to inspect hybrids. Karen recalled that a female hybrid escort was with her. I'd like to read a little bit. I hope this isn't boring.
No, this is great. This is great.
She's off to the side. Seems like she's saying this is her, her hypnotic regression therapy.
Right.
Seems like she's saying that she wants me to look at more hybrids. And I'm saying, I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm getting a lecture. If you could call it that, on my lack of cooperation the whole program. And that's it, basically, You better shape up, or we have ways of making you do that. And I'm like, go ahead and use them, because I'm not going to do it. Like, she's very, like, resistant to anything.
Classic Karen.
2015, this book was published in. And I'm telling you, this is the abductee Karen. This is it.
She's not wearing a mask either. You're not going to make her. She's not going to do it.
You can't tell her. You can't tell her to wear a mask around aliens.
Nope. They're like, we're in space. You need this to breathe. She's like, I don't care. I need to breathe.
I'm restricted in breathing.
Yeah. See, so Thrawn says they were so bothered by with whether they didn't think if they should.
Jurassic Park.
And then Steve Bronson says survive our technological adolescence. Yeah,
That's true. You know, we are wielding some very powerful technologies.
mm-hmm.
And are we, I think, responsible enough spiritually to wield such great power? That's a very good
Yeah,
point, Stephen.
I am at the same time kind of like suspicious of that idea because it to me, and I hope it's true. It would be great if it was true, but it's like it reminds me of like the idea that like there's always an angel looking out for you. You didn't get hit because there like there's always somebody looking out for you kind of idea, and it's like, but are they? You know what I mean? Is it like and like our technological like adolescence, like we have gone like we are like essentially going through the singularity. Like I always talk about, I'm a big fan of the concept, and the Industrial Revolution was like the start of it. And like, you know, my cars were new for my grandfather. To think
We
about
could be
that, you
stepping
know?
into the age of Aquarius, as
Yeah.
you've heard the song sung
Mm-hmm.
by, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that is also an age of enlightenment, not just technologically, but spiritually.
Right.
What's going to get us there? We're getting there with technology further and further. Just imagine, if you will, the stuff that hasn't been classified for us to view, and the leaps of technology that we're capable of that no one in the public knows about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
It'd probably blow your minds. Again, spiritually, we need to get there. We
Yeah.
aren't. We're constant fighting, constant warring, constant separating, dividing, you know, that untrust. And, this reminds me of a little bit. I'm going to get into a dad talk. I'm sorry.
Do it.
I had a talk with my girls earlier, okay,
Mm-hmm.
where they're getting to be 10 and 11, preteen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to question everything the parents are doing.
Right.
Because they what? They know better.
Right.
They're smart. They know the answers. They know things.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting to push us and
Right.
question us. And so I said to them, like, hey, I get you guys are going through this, and after dinner tonight, actually, I said, hey, you two, come out here. I'm like, all right, girls, you're going to do exactly what I say, and you're not going to say a thing. You're going to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay. Like they saw it as kind of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had them clean up the kitchen by me just sitting back going, okay, now Audrey, do this, get this, and blah, 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 right? I'm going to do this. And they're doing it.
Right.
And they work together. There was no arguments. They weren't bumping into each other. When they didn't have a clue on how to proceed, I guided them,
Mm-hmm.
and it got them to finish everything very quick. And afterwards, I said to them, now, not fighting me and listening to my advice and how to do things,
Mm-hmm.
did this process go smoothly for you? Did it go by quick? And they're like, yeah. They were really surprised by it. They were like, yeah, actually, like that was good. That was easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is why when it comes to other stuff in your life, you need to just trust us parents that what we're telling you need to do it without question.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why, is because we have a higher understanding than you do. Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it clicked on them. I saw the click. I'm like, that was a good dad moment. Good dad moment. But
Yeah.
I think that's us in the government, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, it's like you have to know when you're out of your element and you need to listen to the doctor, because
Right.
the doctor knows what you need. And then but you also have to like when somebody says just drink bleach, that will cure your illness, for instance, then you need to have the critical skills to go, no.
So how would you
I'm not
describe our
doing that.
government as a parent?
Yeah, I
Right?
yeah,
Like,
it's
that's why we
ill.
don't have that trust.
Yeah.
We have that because we come from, honestly, a chaotic
Mhm.
upbringing as a nation.
We have a broken home. Yeah,
as a people. And other
Yeah.
countries are the same, way worse way.
Sure.
All right. So as a humanity, You know,
Mhm.
as a species,
Mhm.
we have people that are in charge that we just don't trust because they've given us reasons to not trust them.
Right.
And now that they're kind of getting their shit together and they want to do the right thing, we're very reluctant to listen to them, I think.
Yeah, and
Now-
and like with the bigger theme of this part of the show that we're talking about, I am a little bit like, if you guys showed up, you aliens, and said, "Hey, here's, you guys can do this," to give us a little pep talk, and we're like, we're out here, we're like gonna hang out with you when you guys are ready. They'll go a long way. I think
yeah,
a lot of our shit would get together. So that's where I'm a little bit like, I hope that's the case. But on the other hand, I'm like, they could make this a lot easier. They can make this make a lot more sense. And
what if though they know if the public sees everything that we have tried to hide
yeah,
is completely, I mean, what if
yeah,
all of a sudden three right out of Travis Walton's textbook abduction, mind comes walking these grays. Like, we're going to be like, wait a second.
yeah,
Like, so if that's true, this is true. And what if they're not very good people to talk to? What if they're cold, calculating, very lacking of humanity?
yeah,
What if they're just
yeah.
the
What if,
remnants of humanity are lost?
yeah. What if they're beings that don't have feelings? You know what I mean? And they only just simply see things like what's the smartest thing to do, and they're not very compassionate. Like, and that's where it, like, because you get into these different abduction stories, and sometimes they sound super compassionate, and sometimes they sound less interested in people except for just doing the job at hand. And like, if you were to just pretend, like just pretend it's all real, all of it is real. No one has been a huge grifter in this, and all of these major stories
Yeah.
are real. Um, you kind of start to get the picture that they're just like us. Sometimes you go to the doctor and the bedside manner is very good, and sometimes the person who gives you a shot doesn't say anything and then doesn't care how they give you the shot, and they just stick it in your arm and it hurts really bad. And like, you know what I mean? Like, there's all this kind of like, it makes me think, if I take it all seriously, that they're not that different than us in certain ways, like that. And that's also a scary idea, because as scared as like Americans will be about, oh, if China is in our airspace, or Russia, what if it's them? Like, they're so afraid of that. But what if the equivalent of China or Russia is in our airspace, but from space with actual kick-ass technology? Like, what if if there are different kinds? We also, wouldn't it be good for us to know which ones we
Mm-hmm.
ethically side with? And stuff like that, or
And that,
or do we even want to take a side in that? Because it's, yeah, but it's just, it sucks if they we don't know anything, and let's look on the other side and say all of it is mostly fake, but there are things in the sky that we don't know what it is, right? All of these people had sleep paralysis and hallucinations, or mental illness of some kind, or whatever, right? Let's just pretend for a second. And then there's these like things in the sky. Then it's like, on one hand, like, the government has this huge, scary, weird problem where something is going on, but they don't know anything about it. They don't know how to tell us what it is. And then when you go the other direction, they know everything about it, and they think we can't handle it, or they don't want to compromise national security. Both directions suck when you get down to it.
yeah.
So it's like in a way, there's a sucky reality that we're living in, but we don't know what it is. That's what's weird. That's what's weird about being alive with this concept.
If it's multidimensional, I just want to say,
Mm-hmm.
man, this is a crappy dimension. We could do so much.
Right? Yeah. I do think that the concept of, and even not to even go down the Loki way, but just simply like, if there are other like I said, like things that we can't conceive of, elements to our planet that we can't see, and that as humans we can't sense, and that there are other beings coming up with us and in them. Like that seems more realistic and logical than they come from a planet really far away. Like that,
It might be both.
yeah, and
If we're looking at accounts of people, and reports of things happening, Betty and Barney Hill, they were shown. Betty was, a projection, if you will, of a star chart, and then she drew that star chart out, and it ended up being a star pattern that was recognized years later.
yeah,
And being an unknown at that time area, Zeta Reticuli, right? The binary.
I like that. I like that story, but I also when I heard it, I was like, but if I drew a couple of dots in a certain way, would eventually we find that out there? That's what I wonder. You know what I mean? When I heard that
Yeah.
one. But the one thing I always want, or I've always thought in my head, I don't know if this has ever been, I'm sure it has, but I've never heard anybody talk about it, is they were an interracial couple when it
Correct.
wasn't cool, when it wasn't, or I should say it was highly unacceptable.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like so you would think an interracial couple at the time would not want to draw any more attention to themselves.
That's a big thing that I don't hear mentioned nowadays, but I heard in the 90s being discussed of it. Like,
Okay.
why would they want to draw attention to them? Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's something huge. And nowadays, interracial couples are, of course,
Yeah.
a huge part of everyday life, and in America and every other country. But
Right.
now we don't think about it as much. Back then, why would they want to draw that much attention to themselves?
Yeah,
And they were respected individuals in the community, you know. So I would have to say, yeah. And there was information in that story that kind of, I think, could have been used to definitely just ruin them as people.
Yeah. Right. Do you know what Buckshot's talking about? Part of me wants to believe the John Titor story, but it reads like it was reported ready for story whole explanation.
What do you think? John Titor, he was posting online, I think, some years ago, claiming to be an individual from the future, gave some like story. Tell me if I'm right, Buckshot, on this. I don't want to be wrong. Gave some, story elements of what happens to us in the future, and then he just suddenly disappeared. That's what I remember of it.
I mean, if I was,
I don't know facts.
I'm not a time traveler, but if I had a time machine today and I was going to go back to, like, let's say 1900 and tell my family what's going to happen in the future so that way they could become insanely rich, Marty McFly style, I would be like, oh, and on this day, D-Day happens. You know what I mean? I would like give like some date that could be, that would predict the future 3 or 4 days after my post that would validate it. How hard is it?
There was just on Netflix, there was a documentary about the time traveler or something, and it was supposedly a documentary about a guy who was arrested because he walked in a convenience store, took items off the shelf, and then walked out. And then when they arrested him, he was like,
I'm from the future. Everything's free.
He's like, yeah. He's like, this is food. I think that documentary is fake. I'll say that. Yeah. I don't know if anyone's tried to debunk it, but I've looked at it and found it to be not too reliable. Interesting concept, but yeah, so time travel stories always like they interest me highly, but it's like,
the Throntok says drain the adrenal gland was the same plot.
Yeah, I think it was, right?
I come in peace,
dude. That's great. I think they got that idea from the old ufology abduction stories, because people are reading this shit. Even people that write movies, they're reading it and going, damn, that's a good idea.
Dude, I was like to me, Dolph was just always like He-Man and Rocky IV, the Russian, and all that. I guess I heard he was like was like a PhD and stuff. He's like a highly intelligent dude.
Yeah, chemist.
God.
Yep.
That guy's like super good looking, ripped, and he's super smart. Fuck him. Fuck him. No, I'm just kidding. You know what, aliens? Take that guy. No.
Yeah, take him. Mark Hamilton. Hell yeah, we're still going, man. If we can ramble and shoot the shit, why not?
John Tuck says the supposed miles wide opening in the South Pole that is restricted airspace.
I haven't heard about a restricted airspace area down there. I know Antarctica has a lot of weird things going on around it.
Yeah, I
always question why we as a military, would even be interested in that area. But, hey, I haven't dug too deep into that, rabbit hole. Some of it I have, Nazis hiding out in Antarctica and, the secret little battle that took place during World War II and all that jazz. Yeah, I know, right? Crazy stuff.
No, there's like a photo and people think it's like a UFO being revealed.
I've
like
seen that photo.
And like I've heard like the other side of it is the people who go against it say that it's actually like it's a like lake of water from where the runoff has come off of the side of the mountain.
That clearly looks like something freaking dug into the earth.
But it does look like it's a giant like
absolutely
metal, like a quarter of a metal disc or some kind of installation
weird,
or something.
Yeah. No, I've seen that photo, and I'm telling you, I'm all for like, hey, everybody, listen. I know it looks like that. You're matrixing it kind of in the mind. No, that fucking looks like something crashed.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it does have that. It does look like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But and if it's a runoff lake,
yeah.
Why did it burrow away mountains of snow?
Yeah.
To forge the path.
When I looked at it, I was like, this is more likely to have been a glitch in the photographs, like compression or something, more than it being the runoff of a lake. Like I would buy that before I would buy the runoff of a lake.
It was a pretty clear photo.
Yeah, no, yeah, it looks cool. Whatever is it? I'm curious if anybody has tried to go there.
Oh, come on.
I mean, there's people with money who are into this stuff. I mean, maybe they could fly a plane over there or something. I don't know. But you all see Dr. Greer's Cosmic Hoax. That's the documentary that we were talking about. I couldn't remember the name.
We talked about it at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, it did fit. Like my takeaway from it is even if if the whole thing is sincere and it's not a grift on his part, let's just pretend like it's not. I feel like it was still designed to be like to separate the crowd and then to have like the control of. That's why I said it felt culty the whole time.
It did.
And that's why like all of the like meditation stuff to like see UFOs. I'm like, I've seen people on YouTube who are doing it, and it's like, well, because it's on YouTube doesn't mean it's real. But it's like I'm curious to see if people are really doing it and seeing anything, or if these people are like seeing like a shooting star and they're like, there it was. Is it like I wanna see how that stuff plays out, but I am also like, if it is real, like to go back, I did defend the idea of an app has to cost money, and it does cost money to like run a business or to run an organization even who would do that. But it's like, has that guy ever put things like up on a website for free? Like, here's how you do it.
And a lot of his stuff's behind paywalls and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think I feel like that right there answers everything that you need to know, probably. Because if it is real and he's doing that in that way, what a scumbag. And then
I think people are telling him like, hey guy, it's not too late. Why don't you just come clean or whatever they're saying. They're never gonna convince him to do that, right?
No, he never can. I mean,
he never can.
Yeah.
But let's just say they land. Let's just say.
Yeah.
And then he's wrong. And like the shit
Yeah.
that dude would get, and Lou mentions that, like, I think, after everything's said and done, a lot of people are going to have to make amends, and some of them are going to change their name and hide the rest of their life.
Yeah, well, when it comes to like some of the government people who did really bad stuff, it's like you have that you have where it's like, yeah, we did bad things for no reason or just because we wanted to further our career. Horrible
Mhm.
people like that. But on the other hand, I think the grift will just change. Oh, those guys! I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about these other guys, these other
Right.
aliens. They're from Xandar 7. The
Yeah.
Xandar 7 dudes are totally the ones I was talking about.
Wouldn't these aliens know those aliens?
I think
Know
these
about
guys might have. I think these guys might have killed my friends on Xandor. I think they might have killed them. I think that's the grift will just change.
Hey,
Um,
you're kind of breaking up a little on
oh,
my end.
okay.
Before we wrap this up, though, I would like to know, drop down in the comments or hit me up on Twitter at Pemberfoot and tell us if you want me to come back. I'm sure Jason's open to having me ramble on with Crystal
Oh
Head
yeah,
vodka in my system anytime.
it's the best,
But
man.
it's if you want me to do a deep dive into a certain subject like John Teeter or something like that, let me know ahead of time. I'll do that deep dive and research for everyone, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll really go crazy on one certain spectrum. We're kind of hitting all the different avenues of light,
Yeah.
but we can hone in, we can focus, I
No,
guess.
it's Saturday night, baby. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
So White Rabbit says disagree. I'm not concerned about him. Just think it's quite possible that if aliens existed and were here, they would not be violent. But I got a 50-50 on that. Yeah, I'm with you for the most part. Where I think like if they
We
just
are here.
yeah, we're here, and then like if they did do anything like dissect us or whatever, they clearly weren't just doing it out of some kind of like sado like kind of way where they just wanted to like, I want to inflict pain in humans. It's fun for me as a gray alien with crazy black eyes. Like they're not doing it that way. It doesn't seem.
Clearly, it's not that obvious of
Yeah.
a rube, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah, and that's why I think that like if anything, it's a really hopeful prospect. You know what I mean? If they're here to see us, and I hope for their sake the concept that they're completely us in the future and are all jacked up and need to get some pure DNA and stuff like that to try to fix themselves. I hope that story is not true because that sucks for them. I hope that they're from somewhere else and that they're here to say hello and to
Welcome us into this intergalactic space.
yeah, and to like and to help us see the universe's possibilities. Like that would be rad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nice concept. At the same time, it could go the other way, and that's why I just want to know.
Really,
Yeah,
really bad.
yeah,
But again, like White Rabbit said, we're here. Like,
yeah.
they've had their chance. They could have done it a long time. They've supposedly went to nuclear sites and flipped the switches. They're like, hey, bitches.
But it goes both ways. They flipped them on in other countries.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's like
it's really confusing. Yeah. It's
were they trying to start some shit? I don't know. Like,
well, I'm gonna say that they didn't start shit there. So and they clearly could. So therefore, it was, it was maybe just saying protect.
Maybe
yourself.
they wanted to show them, like, even if you start this, even if I light this up for you, ready to roll, guess what? Boop.
Yeah.
Nope.
Or when you look at them turning it on, it might have been, hey, like think about what that means. You just turned them on right now. If you guys fire, they're gonna wipe you out. It's not gonna work.
Why is nuclear? Why is nuclear devices, bombs, explosions? Mm-hmm. Why is that such a important thing that they're looking at?
Yeah.
Does it cross over into other dimensions? The effect on a level we can't even measure?
Yeah, that was one of the
was Hiroshima theories. Felt in other versions of this dimension? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or is
But
it us trying to preserve ourselves?
I've heard that theory, and I was like, that's a fascinating idea. But I also think if that was the case, and if we found out if the other dimension version of us was messing us up, we would want to kill them. We would be like, oh, that's an act of war.
Not
And
observe them.
yeah, we wouldn't want to hang out, and like, so that's the only reason why I go about that one. But there's also just a chance that if that does pan out, that maybe that's what allowed them to detect us. Maybe in doing that, it did some sort of, I'm but my level of science is probably that of a Marvel comic. So
same, right?
But yeah. But dude, thanks for coming and hanging out with me tonight and shooting the shit about spaceships, even though the show's not about spaceships, according to George Lucas. He's always wrong.
Spaceships.
He's always wrong.
Always.
And thanks to everybody in the chat who hung out with us all night tonight. And anybody else who watches this on a replay or whatever and wants to comment, let me know, and leave your comments, and then next time we'll do it, I'll collect any comments and we'll talk about them on the show too.
Or like I said, hit me up on Twitter at Pemberfoot, PEMBER foot. And then anything you want to do. And thank you for smashing that like button, as those YouTubers say. And so stupid.
Ring that bell.
Ring that bell. One of them says tickle that bell. It kills me every time. I'm like, why would you say that? You're a grown man.
My son, he was like, Dad, what's my superhero name? And I was just like, I felt like messing with him. I'm all, it's Tickle Fist. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, your name is Tickle Fist. But that's how you mess with a kid. But yeah, but anyways, thanks to everyone, and we will do one of these again, like really soon, probably next weekend. And if anything else happens, we'll like cover it. But yeah,
make it a trio next week. Thrawn Talk says, yeah.
If you want to come on, talk spaceships, man, just don't make George Lucas mad. You're open invite, dude. But George Lucas is going to disagree with you. But yeah, it would be great to have Thrawn on. And so thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next time. Good night.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.